Good evening, folks. Welcome. I'm Alphonso Zean of the Liberia Public Radio and Lpr-Tv. As usual, today is Midweek Wednesday. Welcome. This is All Things Considered. Right here, we're going to be having a group of professionals and a group of women under the banner of the new creation. What is all that about? Why adding up to the already troubled water here? Bees and more going to be the point of conversation here this evening with the legendary Master Washington and a group standing by, making the first appearance as a group on the Liberia Public Radio. In the interest to showcase Liberia beauty and culture, taking you to Nima County this evening. Let's go. All right, time check here in the East Coast is 7:52 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'm Alphonso Zean of the Liberia Public Radio and Lpr-Tv. Well, welcome our viewers and listeners across the globe. Thank you for sharing your week. This midweek with us. If you are in Liberia, even part of the world, we say good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome. Very shortly, we will get this program going. Good evening. We want to welcome our viewers and listeners across the globe. I am Alphonso Zean, so right here at sitting control here in Angola at the New England Bureau Desk of the Liberia Public Radio. Tonight we're going to have a pivotal conversation, but I can definitely guarantee you're going to be a combination of a lot of wide range of issues, advocacy. The definitions it appears to me in our Liberian context seems to be a convoluted one, but we are trying to find answers what it means. What is the true definitions of advocates or those who profess to be an advocate? There are so many advocates out there. We just do not know who is who. What are they advocating for? For me, for you, for the country? And what is the interpretations of this advocacy? Is it a political one? Is it for themselves? Or who are they advocating for? These are consequential questions we're going to be talking about. A group of Liberians surface right here in the diaspora. They are in the vanguard now, calling themselves Liberian women. Let me make sure, yeah. Liberia Women Advocacy to End Violence in Liberia. Quite fascinating and interesting. It's a politically motivated ahead of the 2023 presidential. Three major elections going to be. Well, the group they are standing by right now. LPR, we're going to be having some fine conversation here. The Liberal Progressive is here. The guests they are standing by. Let me just bring in Liberal here to get a quick snippet of what this. Maybe I will try to be a novice here this evening. I just don't know who is advocate, and I've said this over and over. I can talk for myself. Because we trust these people to advocate for all at the end of the day, they need some sort of political reward. There is a purpose for that. Let me bring in the liberal here and get his liberal view here, hopefully not. And hopefully our team of other group, they're going to be here. Liberal, good evening time is the clock is eating away. Advocate. Is anybody talking for you in Liberia or are you talking for yourself?
Well, thank you, Mr. So. I hope that the beautiful women, young ladies, will do the best they can for us. I hope they're not only talking for their own gender, but whatever it is that they're going to be talking about, she also benefit all of us. And I really take my hat off to them because to get in these kinds of conversation with Liberians is not something easy. Because many of them
I do not need a soft liberal view here this evening.
Mr. So
this is
the liberal is trying to. I'm
so
just giving you
you
my
try
view.
to polish
These
here. You
people
try to.
are capable
I
of handling whatever you throw at them tonight. So they don't need me. I'm just trying to be factual here. They have their own families. They have other things to do. They're not busy or anything. But they see the need to be able to represent, and whatever it is that they're trying to do is in the interest of the Liberian people. So, Mr. So, I think let's listen to them tonight and see exactly what it is they want to do. But whatever it is, to have these highly educated young Liberians, women, to say this is what we want to do, I think it's very important that we give them our ears tonight. And I really appreciate you doing so. And thank you. I will be back as soon as they're done, and then we'll come back to have a genuine discussion. But I hope you do not bring your conservative ideas to the women who are on here tonight to educate us, to enlighten us. Please let them do their job. They're capable of doing it. Stay away from them with your conservative idea and let them talk. I'm not saying they're liberal either, but I'm just saying let them have it. Thank you very much for your time.
You already bought in the water. You try to pull fingers in and throw for me to be like the bad guys to these people, and you try to pull me in. But I can tell you, I'm doing this for the country. You liberal always like to apportion wealth. I've said it over and over. I can talk for myself. Nobody need to talk for me because why? I haven't seen it. But I'm not going to be judgmental yet. Time check here is 7:58. It's time to get the ball rolling. Liberals stand by, and the rest of the group where we're going to have this conversation. It's going to be quite an interesting night here this evening. I am Alphonso Zean of the Liberia Public Radio. Stay tuned. I'm going to be bringing our guests here to get the ball rolling right here to right now on this beautiful Wednesday. Okay, let's get the ball rolling. Good evening, USA. Good morning to Liberia. This is the Liberia Public Radio. Let me bring in my guest. The time, the clock is eating away. Something in my esophagus. I try to get it out here. Let me start with the head of this group here. Legendary Master Washington is here. Let's see what's going to happen here this evening. There's going to be a challenge dealing, having such a conversation with her, but we're going to see how it plays out. Good evening and welcome. Let me see. Why is the name? Let me see here. Hold on 1 second. Let me do some quick housekeeping here. Okay, let's get your name this place. Let me go there and bring in Madam Florence Harris. Is also a member of this group. And then let me go near the capital of Washington, D.C., within the Washington belt. Neil Allison is part of this group. These are major actors, former leaders of the Metropolitans of the Unions of Liberian Association. There seems to be a political connection here, but I don't want to come to that conclusion here. Let me get it from the house's back. Ladies, good evening. Welcome. Thank you for honoring our invitation. This is the Liberia Public Radio. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening, Alphonso. Thank you for having us.
Good evening, Alphonso. Thank you for having us.
Good evening, and thank you for having us. We are delighted.
Great. All right. Don't mind Samson told he's the most liberal on this network. He's always the tendency of playing that sort of softball, but he's not nice. I am the nicer guy on this network. He always tries to get me to be the bad, and that seems not to be the case. Okay, introduction is something that I'm not good at because you tend to leave good pieces of information out there. Okay, let's see it. Madam Kanga is also joining here. Let's see here. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Audible. Thank you so much. All right. Yeah. I think everybody critical seems to be good here. They are on time. It's not a Liberian when they say 8 o'clock, they come 10 minutes after, 15 minutes after here. Let's get a ball rolling. Ladies, good evening and welcome. Just bear with me if I call your first name, second name, or whatever is not disrespect, but to just make it a little bit easier for me to get a conversation flowing here. So, like I said, intro is not one of my favorite because sometimes you leave out good pieces of information about the person's soul. I like to introduce myself. So proportionally, I like to give it out to people to tell their own narrative. So let me start with the big elephant in the room, Master Washington. You seems to be in the driving. You're driving this wheel here. This truck, the plane, where it's landing, I have no idea, but we will know ultimately. Let me start with you. Who is Master Washington? Tell us a little bit here, and we get it forward.
Well, thank you very much, Alphonso. It is definitely a pleasure to be on your show, and we do thank you and appreciate you for hosting us. Well, let me just make a little clarification. In our group, we don't have any elephants in the room. No elephants in the room at all. We don't have any elephants in the room. We don't have any fat cats. We are all just colleagues. So I wanted to make that clarification. Okay, so my name is Master Amelia Washington, a Liberian journalist, a social worker, a women's and human rights advocate. And I'm delighted to be working with these beautiful, intelligent, and driven women to do this. Thank you.
Okay, there you have it. She's a legendary journalist as well, so that's not a surprise one to get a quick fix. Okay, let me come down here. Beatrice Kanga Gray. Am I calling the name the right way?
Yes, you are. Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. Thank you for this time. Well, my name is Beatrice Kanga Gray, as you can see on the screen. I am a Liberian from Grand Bassa County. I'm a mother of 4. I am a healthcare provider in the state of Pennsylvania. And I just love my country, and I want to do what's best in my little weak ways to lift up my country. So that's my quest.
Ooh, quite interesting. Thank you all for stepping in the gap. Okay, Neil Allison, I former president with the Metropolitan of EULA. So it's giving me like a little bit hair scratching here, but I'm going to leave that here. Let's go ahead. What's the intro? What can we hear from you?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alphonso. My name is Neil Allison, and as you heard, I reside in the DC metro area. I am a social worker, I'm an advocate, and I love to support individuals And that's the passion I have. Thank you.
Okay. Let me go the research person, right? Going all out there to get the data, what the basis of this organization. Hopefully, we're going to know all of that. Madam Florence Harris. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening, Alphonso. My name is Florence Fumblet Harris. I'm a Liberian. I'm a financial management advisor, my profession. And I live in the Maryland, Virginia area. And I'm a former president of the Liberian Community Association in the Washington metro area. The love that I have for my country made me to hang heads with all of these wonderful and professional ladies from Liberia to address a major issue that we have in our country, which is violence. Thank you so much.
Violence. And this is not anything anyone will want to. Ladies, I want to thank you so much for honoring our invitation. Hopefully, this is not going to be the first, not either the last, because this is something we all attached to, and we must make sure we have a civilized and peaceful society. But I am confused. But hopefully, you guys going to help me out here this evening because I'm getting to get confused with the true definitions of advocate or advocacy, why it is, because radio talk show hosts, commentators, politicians, philanthropists, people all walks of life, they are advocates. But we just do not understand into what are they advocating for, the authenticity of it. So let me start with Madam Washington here. Liberia Women Advocacy to End Violence in Liberia. That seems to be the name of this group or organization, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we can put you around in the room. So if I don't call you in here, doesn't mean you are not part of this conversation. Let's do a little bit backtracking here. How this group name was born, how it was it originated, why Liberian Women's Advocacy to End Violence. Violence been going on for years, for decades, and we see it coming. What prompted this decision?
Thank you so much for that question. It's a very good question. The need to establish this group was as a result of just being tired of seeing violence upon violence reported from Liberia that has been happening in Liberia, but most recently within the last 3 years. And I mean, I'm sure you being a media person yourself, I'm sure you've been seeing reports of ritualistic killings of individuals, reports of mysterious deaths and mysterious disappearances, reports of sexual and gender-based violence against women, but not only women, also men. Young boys, are being sodomized. Babies as young as 3 years old are being raped. Just last week, I think it was actually just on Monday this week, a guy, I think was in Sano County, one of the Leeward counties, was arrested for raping a 7-year-old girl, 33-year-old man, and he confessed that he did, and he's asking for forgiveness. So, we are all Liberians. We are, no matter how busy we are in the diaspora, in the United States, we're still paying attention to what's happening in our country, because like my colleague said, we love Liberia. It is our common patrimony. So we want for Liberia to do better. We want for Liberia to be better, a place that we can be proud of, a place that we can hopefully retire to, and a place that will be attractive to our children who are now in these parts. So the idea came as a result of just being tired and concerned about all these violence that are taking place unabated. I say unabated because every day we have reports of violence, coming out of Liberia. So we decided to come together as a group of professional women, but patriotic women who love Liberia, to see how we can help, what we can do to help, if not stop violence in Liberia completely, because we know it may be impossible. Every society has violence, but at least to be able to do something substantive to reduce the situation of violence in Liberia. So when we got together, we threw names around, we solicited from each other. One of the strengths of this group is that we are consultative. We don't do anything without consulting each other. We are very transparent with each other. So when we met as a group, people were brainstorming names, throwing names out, and we were, trying to see what fit, what didn't fit. And we also wanted to make sure that our name was not going to be duplicating or taking other people's, intellectual properties like their name. So we finally, after passing names around, we finally came out with this name, Liberian Women Advocacy to End the Violence in Liberia. So that's how we started, and that's how we got our name.
That was the consensus reached by the founders of this organization or group, you will to call it.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
It was a unanimous decision. We didn't have to vote on anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we work together so well. We have not voted on anything major yet because, we're basically of the same mind. Basically, generally of the same mind. We know what we want. We want to do this. So this name came about after we threw names out and people look at the different names and stuff. And by consensus, we agreed that this would be the best name for this group.
Okay, so let's push the ball around here. Madam Harris, if you will, to call you. How come you got involved here? What prompted this decision so much? People out there been advocating for you, correct?
Yes.
So
Okay.
are they not, is their advocacy not right? Is it not in line with what you believe, for which why this group, or why you didn't go ahead, maybe joined tons of advocacy group out there to strengthen their positions, and you decided to join this? Was there any specific reason for that?
Thank you so much for asking that question. I have been working with Liberians for over 20 years in the US, different organizations, community-based to church-based, what have you. But when I look at this group, the advocacy is not just to identify the problems. The group has solution in identifying these problems. Most of the organizations, they just say, okay, the government is doing this, for example, or the government not doing that. We are not that type of organization. We identify the problems and we look at holistic approach in solving these problems. So when I look at the organization and the caliber of women that form part of this organization, it really energized me to come on board, being also a community activist, to come on board and give in whatever support I can give into this group so that we can start tackling the issues of violence in Liberia. Not only identifying rape, identifying ritualistic killing. Yes, we identify all of these things. But what are the solutions? Will it continue to be the same? There have to be progress. So that's why it energized me to come along and work as much as I can to solve and tackle the problem.
Okay, let's get it rolling around the room here quickly. Madam Allison, I'm quite sure you have your own extraordinary story or narrative for which you are part of this. I know you've been in the vanguard, but what makes this group to be the Messiah, or to deliver or to champion your voice of advocacy, and not just only you, ordinary Liberians in and out, to make our country to be one of the civilized countries on planet Earth? Why you decided to be part of this group?
Thank you, Mr. Zean. Like my colleague said, Ms. Harris, as it stands, there are various groups already on the ground in Liberia, but we feel our group is unique. The caliber of women we have on the group, what we bring to the table, the professionalism, and how we intend to advocate for Liberians that are in Liberia. We are not only advocating for women, this is a holistic group, and we feel that We are more solution focused. Our organization is going to be solution oriented. Would discuss the problems, look at the problems. What are the solutions to these problems? How can we help to minimize what is going on in Liberia? We might not eradicate everything, but we'll find solution to every problem that is going on and see how best we can work hand in hand with not only the government, but social organization as well as civil organization in bringing a lasting solution to some of the problems. That is some of the reasons why I joined, because we are heading towards one direction. Like Ms. Washington said, in our group, not many times we have like vote, because we come up with very good ideas that after reviewing your ideas, well, this is the best thing. We don't need to have a vote over it. So we are women coming together with solutions. We've been in so many organizations before, and we have had different experiences. We put them together, and we see this group is going to be a good group as we are moving forward. We have a symposium coming up on September 17th.
We'll come to that. Believe me, we want to come to that because I think that's the core conversation. We will come to that. Let me bring in Madam Gray, if you will, but I'm going to reconstruct the questions here. Have you been part of any advocacy group in Liberia or in the diaspora by any way, means, associate?
I have, and because I see advocacy in a different frame. Advocacy to me is so deep. If you're a human being of empathy, you're already an advocate. We were all born advocates. So that's how I see it. If you have a soul, if you have empathy, if something is going wrong, you have to step in. You have to find solution. You have to say in your heart, I have to do something about this in whatever way I can. So advocacy is within everyone. We just have to come out to enforce it. So everyone is an advocate in my mind.
Yeah. Okay, if any one of you guys have like a device on, again, some sort of feedback, maybe you just want to load the volumes or something, you can monitor, but you just have to show us not to get it. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, Madam Washington here, all of you are going to take the floor here. Everybody, all of us, including myself as an angle, we must all be held accountable in our various assignments and things that we sign off for doing when it comes to Liberia. Let's get this straight here. 2023 is ahead. Let me get it directly. You as the founder, does this group has any political agenda?
Absolutely not. This is not a political group. We are non-political because we feel that we need to operate outside of the politics to be able to be objective in our approach. Like my colleague said, we are a solution-focused and a solution-based group. We have many groups that have been advocating and they continue to advocate, but advocacy has several different styles and intentions and goals. And some advocates, they just want to blow the alarm on what is happening. They want to alert the public about what is happening. And maybe they hope that something will be done about it. Other groups, other advocates want to maybe document what is happening. Maybe they want to leave a proper research record for what is happening. But our advocacy want to go beyond all of those. We want to be able to, yes, we can, we can speak about what is happening. We can do research. Mrs. Beatrice Kanga Gray is the head of research for our group. So we can do all of those. But at the end of the day, what happens? We want to be able to see how we can work with everybody the board to be able to find some solutions to all these violence that's taking place. And we feel that to be able to do this, we have to divorce ourselves out of politics. That is this group. Because, the Liberian political sphere is very toxic. We have not matured as a people in terms of politics. people, think that the political adversaries are actually the enemies. And Liberian politics is toxic, and it can produce some hate. So we are not going to be effective as a group if we're going to be, politically based, or if we have political interests. So one of my colleagues said, we are not political. We're going to work with everybody across the board. We're going to be lobbying the government. At a point in time, we're hoping that we'll be able to meet with key government officials to discuss with them, to find out what is going on. Why are all these violence continue to take place? What is government doing to address these issues of violence in our society? Because a society that cannot protect its own is a sick society. So how can we help? The police director, speaking on an incident of violence before, lamented that the police, they are limited in their work because they don't have proper logistics, they don't have adequate support, they don't have adequate funding and all of that. The entire country of 4 million people has one DNA machine. And those of us who are here know the importance of having a DNA machine in terms of investigating and solving crimes. So we are non-political. We're not going to be part of the politics. This group is not going to be the group that's going to be shouting, screaming, calling people names and carrying on. We are not against any political party. We are not against the government. While it is true that because the government is responsible for the country, and they are responsible to secure ensure the safety of the citizens. So there may be some things that, we will be able to say, hey, you guys pay attention to this, or why are you not doing this? But we're not going to be, our advocacy is not the advocacy where you want to be a loggerhead with the government, because we're looking to see how we can constructively engage everybody, government, oppositions, members of civil society, other advocacy group. We want for all of us to be comfortable in coming together to find solutions to this violence that has taken over our society.
So that will lead me to ask the question here. I'm making an educated guess here. My guess here, some of the members are affiliate of all of political parties, political association. Does that have any impact with the relations of the political party with that of this organization? I'm saying this to say we see ministers, government officials, sometimes they go to within the public sector. Is it where I'm speaking as Mr. Alphonso this time? They put down the ministerial government, directors, lawmakers. They are speaking as an individual. That seems to kind of like confuse people. When do we know you are minister, and when do we not know that you are not minister? And sometimes these ridiculous statements and comments come from out of them here. So I want to know here, are all the scenario being sorted out by this group? Yes, you are a member of this, but when it comes to this organization, this is how we should be, and this is how we should operate. I'm a little bit curious here to know.
Yes, from the onset, from the formation of this organization, those are some of the things we discussed. Like you said, members have their own political affiliation, but this is an advocacy group. It's non-political, and we are here to engage everybody across the board, to include civil societies, the government, law enforcement. So we are not going as political entities, we are not going our political affiliation. We are going as non-political, and it was discussed and we agreed upon those terms that as an advocacy group, we be neutral.
Yeah, Alphonso, let me just add on to what my colleagues have said. Yes, as individuals, you have the right to affiliate with whatever party or group you want. But when it comes to our organization, we do not bring our political influence into this group. We do not, like say, for example, if someone mistakenly, a poster mistakenly came over to our website, it drew the attention of all of us, and that poster was immediately taken down, because regardless of who is the president, who are the leaders of Liberia, we will have to work with with them. So people might, Liberians, for example, might say, oh, okay, Alphonso is a member of this group. But the action that the people will see, the actions that our actions will dictate whether the group is affiliating with political parties. We will not endorse any political party because violence, whether John Doe is president today or Mary Doe is president tomorrow, we have seen that the violence since the war have continued. So we would not be involved in political talks, will not be involved in political actions, because we have to work with our lawmakers, regardless of who they are. Because the issue is, it goes beyond political party.
Madam Gray?
Yes, I think we're all going to be saying the same thing, but I would just say that in order for advocacy to be effective, it has to be a coordinated effort. And you cannot inject politics when you're looking at a 3-year-old being raped into the country. In the country, if you looked at the rate of violence in your country is so high, you cannot inject politics into that, because you will have to work with everybody. You will have to build capacities, and building those capacities, if a government that's in power is not even the government from your party, you still have to work with that government, because that government is your country's government. So you need capacity. You have to work with that government. You have to work with lawmakers. You have to work with the Justice Department. You know, all of those people are affiliated with different political parties. But that would not be the goal. The goal is one. The cause is one cause. What can we do to diminish the violence in our country? And that is the message. The message is not who are we voting for. So it's not a political message. It's a message, my people, we all have to come together to make sure this violence, what's going on in this country, is not good. Our children are dying. It's not good for our country. We need to do something about it. And all of the recommendations from studies that have been given, studies rape and violence that you said, and all of those studies, the recommendations suggest that the only way to be effective in decreasing the violence, you have to work with all parties, all people. So if we're going to be injecting politics, then we must as well just be defeating the purpose.
I am spinning right now. Let me see here. Yes, it is going to be a great conversation here. Madam Washington, I am hearing that more or less this group will not be involved in politics. Is that the core message I am hearing? What this group does, what it really represents?
Excuse me, I don't know, there's a horrible feedback. So
yeah, somebody.
I'm hearing you clearly because of the feedback.
If anybody have a device on, just you have to kind of like lower the volume so we can get a feedback. I think a little bit, hopefully clear. Okay, here we go. The question I am hearing from the room here that more or less this group does not have a political. They will not be involved in political conversation. Is that correct, or I'm just going above the speed line here? You are not engaged in politics. You will not get anything to do with the politics. What is unfolding? And what this advocacy is all about, what this group represents.
Well, let's clarify that. The way we envision this group is that there will be times where we're going to meet with the lawmakers. We're going to be lobbying them, for example, to strengthen existing laws on the books that will address the issues of violence in Liberia. Maybe laws that will hold perpetrators accountable for violence. And I'm sure there will be times to where we would think about ideas, and we might even get a lawyer to help us draft specific bills that we might send to the legislature. We might, try to work with allies in the legislature to say, look, you're looking into this draft document, see whether, it might suit the purpose, and see whether we can get support for it to be able to help at least reduce the violence in Liberia. So when we say we're non-political, what we're trying to say is that This is not a political opposition group against, for example, the CDC government or President George Weah. This is not a group that is going to be against Mr. Alexander Cummings. This is not a group that's going to be against Mr. Joseph Boyka or Yombli Kanga or any, specific opposition bloc or politicians. That's what we're trying to say. So we are not, this group as a group will not be, Florence said it, we will not be endorsing any political party as a group. We will not be promoting any political party as a group, because we want to be fair, we want to be objective, and we want to be free to be able to work with everybody across the board, like all of my colleagues are saying here tonight, to be effective. Look, we know that Liberians we are a complex people to work with, and we are suspect, or most of the time we are suspicious of each other. Even as we're starting this group now, people are already beginning to ask all these questions. They're looking at us with three eyes. They want to know, okay, what this other group, are they going to do this? No, this is not a group that has come together to be against some politician or some political party for 2023. We have absolutely, none of us are running for office. As a matter of fact, if individual members want to run for office, it's their rights. We're not taking people's rights away from them because they're going to be in the group. If people want to be with their political affiliation, it's their right. But when it comes to this group and the goal of this group, the politics is going to stay outside. Like Florence gave a very good example. One of our members, we have different people who belong to different parties. So somebody just mistakenly dropped a flyer of a political person in our group, and immediately everybody just wrote her and said, please, can you take that flyer down? So this is what we're talking about. So we are serious about this, and we're going to be honest about how we go about doing this. So when we say we're non-political, that's what we mean. We are not opposition to government. We're not opposition to anybody. We're not creating a political party. We're not going to hate anybody, which, we want to be able to be objective, to engage everybody across the board, because this issue of violence, we have to come together as a country to really seriously address it and to get the kind of result we need. The bottom line here is we want this violence, if not end completely, it may be an impossible goal, but at least we want to see the violence reduce. And the way it's going to happen is that we want to see a lot of things take place. Like we want to see the police maybe get more logistics. We want to see perpetrators held accountable. Maybe we want to see the community educated and information dissemination to help them understand violence. And so there's so much that we want to do. We don't have time. We're not going to be bogged down by the politics.
You're not going to be bogged down for the politics. Do you believe some of these violence that are happening on a daily basis in Liberia, do they have political nature?
Well, I can come in.
Mm-hmm.
Violence happens to anyone, irrespective of your affiliation. Violence, whether it's rape, whether it's ritualistic killing, we have been hearing that it happens all across the board in Liberia. So today it might be a little grandmother crying because her grandson was sodomized. Tomorrow it might be mine. So we cannot put politics into this situation because there's no correlation. It happens all across the board. So we cannot just sit back and say, okay, maybe people might think we are in it for political reasons, and see it happening to your cousin, my cousin, other cousins around. So it's happening all across the board. It has no affiliation, regardless of political parties.
B?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be looking at the nature of the violence to say, or to make that identification, or to say, or that determination to say that this violence is politically driven. That's not what we're going to look at. We're just going to look at the violence itself that's happening. And how can we curtail this? How can we decrease this? And who can we go to? Who are the people that will
But
help?
there's an antecedent to potential to violence. There's something that potentially caused that violence to trigger.
Well, violence in general is a belief. Violence in general is a belief. It's a behavior. So we have to look deep into the belief and that behavior. What led to this violence? It's a ritualistic. What are the beliefs? Are there people somewhere in Liberia who believe that if they grab somebody's child and they kill them, this would give them some power or money or something? We have to look into that. Or if a 3-year-old girl is a baby is raped, what mindset is that? Those are the things we're going to look at, but we're not going to say, oh, it's politically driven. It's done by somebody. Why is it done? Why are you doing this? What do you believe? Why are you having this behavior? So that's looking deeper into what's going on than putting a title to it and say, oh, this might be politically driven. So then that's what I'm saying. You're just defeating your purpose. You got to look at it itself, the violence itself. Ritualistic killing, people have that belief. And even the perpetrators don't even believe that they're committing a crime. They don't believe that. So we have to look into the mindset. So what does that? People who are advocating against the psychological effects of violence, those are people, then you work with those people. So to go into those towns and villages or wherever these things are happening, to work with the group, to understand the mindset. When you understand that, then you can investigate properly. So those are things we're going to look at. We're not going to put a name to it to say it's politically driven.
Alfonso?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just add to what B said?
Sure.
So B has made a salient point of our main purpose. Our main purpose is we're going to be looking at the issue of violence, period. Any violence is bad. Any violence is unacceptable. And we are going to be working with Liberians across the board to make sure we end violence. Now we know the question you asked. Now we know that sometimes there are political violence. For example, you have elections violence.
Right.
Yeah, electioneering season, elections are all politics. So, for example, if you have, say, election violence, we know it's politically driven because maybe that's when political opposition sometimes they fuss with each other, they fight each other whatsoever. So if such violence take place, we're going to be treating it as violence. So it may be a violence that derives as a result of political actions or political situation, but we will be treating it as violence, and we will be dealing with it as another category of violence that needs to stop. So yes, we do have political violence sometimes. Sometimes some nature of violence can be politically driven, but notwithstanding, we don't care what's the nomenclature or the category of the violence. Our focus will be on helping to end this violence, or at least to significantly reduce this violence in our society.
What is that? Go ahead, B.
No, most time I was going to say most time the violence or political violence are influenced by, done by the common people, but influenced by maybe somebody with higher power, maybe. So the focus here is to go to the person that's been influenced. What is influencing you? And educate that person to believe in themselves, to say, look, this is not good. This is not good for you. And understand the mindset of that person or a group of people, who are not educated enough to understand why they're doing what they do because somebody's influencing them. So it needs education, it needs training for people to understand to not do those things.
And Alfonso, just to add to my colleagues, we are not going to limit violence. We also have domestic violence, human trafficking, violence against the LGBTQ community. So we are not going to limit violence as specific only rape and child abuse. So we're looking at it holistically.
Social justice is all involved.
Exactly.
So let's see the work of this group here. Do you have membership? There are Liberian women all over Liberia, here in the diaspora and other parts of the world. Are you reaching out to sell this? I mentioned this goal, and what are you hearing from them?
Okay, that is a very interesting topic. Thank you so much. Question. We are reaching as Liberians. We are reaching out to other because, as we said, this quote unquote boogeyman or this menace called violence have to be handled holistically. We cannot say we can solve the problem of domestic violence all by ourselves. So we are working, collaborating with organizations in Liberia. As we speak, we are currently working with organizations in Liberia, different organizations that are addressing different type of violence. So we are on the ground in Liberia working to and it's the solution based thing that I talked about earlier. And also we are also working with stakeholders here in the US. Like my colleague started talking about the symposium that will bring together people from all over the United States to be part of this group. We'll have speakers that will address different issues. But
stakeholders, talking about stakeholders, are you referring to congressional members and people on Capitol Hill?
Yes.
For example?
Yes. And we will have these organizations in Liberia will also participate through Zoom in order for them to be that, because these are the people that are on the ground that will be working with. So they will also be part of this symposium. But my colleague can talk on the speakers that will, be part of this program.
Okay. Talking about, I know we're going to be going to back and forth here. We just want to make sure the dust is settled. Talking about this symposium, what is the ultimate goal? What do you hope to achieve after this symposium that will change the narrative of this violence we're talking about on a daily basis? It's been reported hourly, every minute and second. Do you have delegates? Do you have people coming from inside Liberia? Because that seems to be the hotspot where these things are happening. So their voices, they must sit at the head table as well, so that you will hear from them.
Well, let me talk a little bit about it. I think the goal of the symposium is the start of the awareness. From our perspective, from this group's perspective, it's the start of our awareness. So, of course, we're going to have speakers. Some are Liberians and some aren't. We're also going to have victims from Liberia who's going to narrate their stories and what they're going through, so that people who are guests to know what's going on, what actually is going on in Liberia. We're going to have that. And I mean, beside that, the whole purpose is when we leave from there, to get recommendations as well, but also to bring these other stakeholders to know that this is what we're doing, because we have to build capacity. Like I said, violence or advocacy require more people. Sometimes the questions come, why not join another group to strengthen that group? But this whole thing about violence in Liberia requires more advocacy groups, like I said the last time. We have advocates who are tirelessly in the vineyard, who are working every day, months, years, some have. And some are tired. And study shows that because of that, they have their own trauma. They have their own trauma. And I said the last time I watched Africans who were just their trauma because of the things that they're exposed to on a daily basis, the things they're exposed to, the connection they have with families. When they speak with families, what they hear, those things are enough to traumatize a person. who hears that every day and every night, and who also have to work with their families. So we are going to bring in all of those, the advocates, invite them to come so that we can find solutions. It's a big, wide range of a problem here. It's not for a one group, but it requires more than one group because of different focuses of advocacy, So this is the whole goal. When we get from there, what do we do? What are the recommendations? How do we follow up with the recommendations? How do we compare those recommendations with previous recommendations? Are they similar? Are there different recommendations that we can look at? So we look at all of those things and start working. So that's the goal.
So before we go for our first break here, I'm wondering those that want to be participating in the symposium. I'm hearing stakeholders, but I'm not hearing some of the main actors. I'm talking about the politicians. They have their followers. That's where the origins of some of these violence not necessarily comes from. They must be heard. They must partake into this sort of important conversation here. Is any of these political institutions, groups, are they invited to that symposium?
Alphonso, let me just say this. We've been sending out invitations for the past 3 weeks to everybody across the board, different individuals. Like Florence said, we've been trying to put on the ground. It says we have 3 victims of violence in Liberia who will be providing their testimonies via videos and what have you. So we have reached out to people across the board. We have sent letters out to Liberians, period. So whether you politicians, of course, we send letters out to some people who are in politics and to some known politicians. But we don't want this group to get caught up in the issue of politics, or this is a big name politician, so they must come. We trying to wire the street that we're going to be engaging everybody across the world because we want this to work, because the violence concerns everybody. But we don't want this to be just another group where you're a journalist, where it's a big man thing, big man make news and stuff. No, we're going to be engaging everybody across the board. Every Liberian is important in this discourse when it comes to our group strategy for working to reduce or ending violence in Liberia. So yes, we invited everybody across the board, whether politicians or not. And another thing I want to say is that I think she did an excellent job trying to explain, people who would, basically like targeted for this symposium. But let's just also say that this group has just been newly launched. We have a work plan of activities for the next 1 year, activities that we will be doing. So this symposium is not a one-stop shop. No, it's not. It's actually just the beginning of our public engagement. After this symposium, like Dee said, we're going to be looking at the recommendations. We're going to be looking at some of the suggestions, and we're going to be compiling them to see whether there's anything unique, what's being done before that didn't work, or what new ideas are being proposed that might work that we need to consider. And then we'll just take it and move on. But this is a new group. We've just been launched, and the symposium is just one of several events that we will be having over time.
Okay, we'll be going for a quick commercial for our guests to have a water to cool. This is a great conversation. When we come back, we will be asking them, after collecting all of this information, to what next? Where would they be going? Well, the government of Liberia is in charge of the security apparatus. Would they be at the conference? These and many more are going to be the point of conversation. I'm Alphonso Zean. So let's go for a quick commercial, and we'll be right back.
You've worked for months to bring your or your client's event to life, but unfortunately, the world had another plan. In reality, the only thing you lost is the venue. We take your vision for hosting a virtual conference and bring it to life online. No matter how complex your agenda is, we produce a smooth, engaging experience. Call the Liberia Public Radio today and schedule your event. Our number is 682-433-8802. If you prefer to submit your request via email, please send the request to liberiapublicradio2012@gmail.com. Our staff are standing by waiting for your phone call.
From the West African nation of Côte d'Ivoire, Liberia Public Radio and Television present Business Diary. This program focuses on the activities of business institutions and individuals in society.
I'm Jeremiah Sawu Senior, CEO of All Nation Bank. It has been very good to have this business established here. We are 1 year since we opened here in Anono. There have been few challenges here that have faced in this country, and that is all about the language. But here instead, I refuse to be deterred. I refuse to be discouraged. I open a business and things have been fine.
My name is Mercy Wangarilanga. I am a finance officer working for an international organization. I have a master's degree in business administration. So today I'd like to take the opportunity to talk to you about the COVID pandemic and how it has affected the business sector in terms of me working in an organization, an international organization.
Don't miss out. Be my guest. It's coming soon on Liberia Public Radio and Television.
Okay, there you have it. I'm Alphonso Zean of the Liberia Public Radio and Lpr-Tv. We're here with Liberian Women Advocacy to End Violence in Liberia. Let me just bring in the guests here this evening. Our team of analysts and contributors is standing backstage, and right after this interview, so we're going to take a critical review of today's conversation here. So let's go here quickly here. Who are those going to be taking the stage, and are there selected topics that they're going to be talking about you perhaps want to share with our audience? Who are those who will be mounting at the podium to be speaking at this symposium?
Yeah, sure. So we have 3 main speakers. We have two guest speakers rather, and then also a keynote speaker. So our first guest speaker is former Liberian ambassador to the United States, Mrs. Rachel Wayon-Deeks. She's our first guest speaker. And then our other Liberian guest speaker is Mr. Lawrence Kennedy. And our keynote speaker for the day is the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Delaware, Mrs. Bethany Hall Long. So those are the 3 speakers. And in addition to that, we will have 3 witnesses' testimonies that we have secured. Like Florence said, we have people in Liberia who are working with us. We have identified a fantastic, hardworking group that works with victims of violence in Liberia. So they've been working with us to be a part of this symposium. So we have the testimonies via a video. So 3 of those victims will be giving their testimonies. And we will have members of the steering committee of Liberian Women Advocacy. Each person is going to be addressing a specific category of violence. Like, for example, one person is going to be speaking on the issue of domestic violence. Another person will be speaking on the issue of child abuse. Another person will be speaking on the issue of physical violence. So we have all these different categories of speakers that will be at the symposium.
So, question that is developing now: how those 3 that will be providing testimony, how were they selected? What is the severity of their testimony different from me and other person there? And where this whole thing here, is there a timeline that you are looking at to address these issues? Because, and I'm quite sure collecting these data or this information, there will be a second step to that. Where would they be going?
So the first part of your question was how we selected those who are going to be the victims. Is that your first question?
Yes.
Well, it's not a matter of selection. It's a matter of what group we work with first.
Okay.
Yes. So we identify a group who had the willingness to work with us to identify these victims, and also allow or make the victim to authorize us to come and give the stories to us, because these are private stories. Some people are, don't want to speak out. So they were willing to come out, from the groups that we work with. So it's not about picking somebody. It's about what group, as a new organization, what first group, because everything is new. When you started something, it start from the bottom.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how we identified those groups. Now I forgot your second question.
The second question, there's a purpose, there is a reasons of collecting those information. What would they be used for, and in whose hand would they be learning eventually?
But those information are more for awareness purposes, and also understanding that they will actually be talking the stories. There are people in there who's going to hear these stories to understand the magnitude of what's going on in Liberia. That's the main goal, to understand that. And then we actually going to see face to face what these people are facing, what they're going through, what they're feeling. They're seeking justice. Some of the people that are seeking justice, we're going to be seeing them and listening to them. So we're going to have other guests besides Liberian guests. We're going to have other people that we may just.
How will you facilitate? How will you facilitate, for example, if Alphonso, I wish I've asked to provide some sort of what was happening here? How would there be any action plan? If one who will provide his or her information and tries to seek justice, what would be the action plan for that? Your group would be providing.
Well, that's why the recommendation that says work with the Justice Department, work with the president to provide capacities, to provide funding. Those that there are laws in the books. There are non-billable laws in the books that have not been implemented because there's no funding. So this is why this is when you enforce those things. This is when you go far and beyond, even to meeting the president. So, Mr. President, these are laws that are in the book. Where are the funding? Is it possible to get the funding? This is when you go to the lawmaker and say, hey, why aren't these laws implemented? The non-billable laws. Why aren't they implemented? If they say because we don't have the capacities, then you start working with everybody when you hear these stories. So it's a start there.
So
yeah, to add on, Alphonso, to add on to my colleague, these people that are coming out to tell the stories, they are brave. Because we all know that, for example, when it comes to rape, especially the ones that happen in the interior, about 50% are reported. There might be a reason sometimes of shame, sometimes family compromise. So these people that are coming to tell not only their story, the story of others, that they are not coming forth. So we have it's something that we will continue to reach out. We will, after the symposium, we do our work plan and say what's next, because we have to go and see what the people are talking about. We have to go and look at the situation. So again, as my colleague said, we are just starting. It's the beginning, but we have a whole lot of work ahead of us.
Okay, the whole lot of work here, Madam Washington. Right. You go ahead, and I will bring.
Just to add to my colleagues, like we said, we are non-political and we are not seeking political favor. We are more on evidence based. So what we hope to gain from the victim statements is show evidence. These are the things that happen to people, and they are the actual stories that are being told. Those are untold stories that people have not heard, and these victims are willing to share the story with everybody, with the world, letting people know the violence that took place, how it impacted them, what effect they have had on them over the years. And when we come in, what are the solutions? How can we help these people? What can we do to minimize all of these? Because it seems it's an ongoing issue in the country. How can we minimize it? So those are some of the things that we hope to gain out of our stories, the stories that are being told on solution focus.
Okay, solution focus. Let me come to Madam Washington. Just before going for break, I was asking as to whether the government GOL of the Republic of Liberia be represented, because they are in charge of the security apparatus. They should maintain law and order. So it is cardinal, it is crucial that they are involved to also give them the fair share to say, hey, this is our problem. Now you are calm, you're going to help us. But I'm also branding within here. Is this another Truth and Reconciliation committee or advocacy? You know my story, no action, nothing. I don't know. Maybe I'm taking it in the wrong context here. What is it? If I tell my story, this is what happens to me. This is what's been going on. You know it. No one is being held responsible. There is no push for those who did what they did to the country, not just only me, not you, but to our country. There must be accountability. Is
Well,
that a yes or not?
well, Alfonso, it sounds like to me you are mixing two different issues. You're mixing the truth and reconciliation issues and then ongoing current violence that's taking place. The TRC worked, and it had a time frame, it had a mandate, it had a specific focus and whatsoever. So this is a group. This is not a TRC. This is not. It doesn't have the nature of a TRC. So this is just a group of Liberian women who have empathy, who want to find the time, and who are just tired with you know the escalation, the level of violence that's going on in Liberia, and we want to do something about it. And we want to do something about it, but working with everybody so that we as a country can be able to at least help reduce or solve the situation of the escalation of violence in Liberia. So the idea of people giving their stories is not just a TRC thing. People will give the story. That is, Florence just said, people are brave enough to come out to give their stories. If people want to give their story, they should be allowed to give the story. But our focus is not a TRC style group. Our focus is on the violence in general, ongoing violence in general. And this is a group that we hope will be around for the longest. The TRC had a mandate, it had a time frame, it did its work, it moved on. The TRC was asked to only make recommendations, and government and others were supposed to implement that recommendations. But this group, hopefully, is going to be an indefinite group that's going to be working with the society as long as you have these problems. We hope this issue of the violence would not continue to be so profound, but we hope that this group is going to be here for a long time, helping to resolve the issue of violence, how the best way that we can. So people who are giving their testimony now is because we want them to be part of the symposium. We're not going around the country collecting statements. We're not a TRC. So we're not a war crimes code, advocates. We're not going to be around the country and collecting statements, say 5,000 statements, 10,000 statements. No. We just thought that if we are discussing the issue of violence, and if we're having this symposium, which is our first public activities, so what better way to validate your advocacy, like my colleague Lee Addison said, what better way to validate your advocacy than to have evidence to say, well, the violence we're talking about, here are some of the victims of the violence. These are real, living human beings who are telling you this is what is happening now. So it's not a situation where we're going to be going around and collecting people's stories.
Yeah, you kind of like dive into my second question that was coming with short term, long term, or how long this going to be. Do you intend, if I say I'm referring to the group as to maybe take a visit inside Liberia to talk to other group or talk to people and even meet some of the stakeholders, because it has to be a collective effort. You definitely got to get a support of these different actors where this violence coming from, so that it will also allow you to effectively do what you so passionately believe you're doing. Do you intend visiting Liberia to have a conversation to where these actions, these incidents are taking place. The group, not necessarily an individual to single out here. What are somebody or this group will be making some representation inside Liberia or other places?
Well,
okay, go ahead, Florence.
Part of our work plan, and we have some of our members who have already been to Liberia. One of our members was there where she assisted in collecting some of this information. But going to Liberia is something that's in our work plan. And after the symposium, we will sit down and look at it holistically because, again, the problem is on the ground. And we have to, the solution we have to come from, from the people on the ground. We have to work with them. So it's part of our work plan. And eventually we will be going to Liberia as a group. But members, individual members have already been to Liberia. And we have one of our members that will be leaving within the next couple of months. And when she arrived, she will basically sit with some of these groups in Liberia to look at the way forward, with Liberian Women Advocacy Group.
Okay. Anybody want to ask? You want to ask something?
Yeah, thank you. And to add to that, let's say everything must be done decently and in order. So that's what we're doing. We're going step by step. And we have a work order that we've been discussing all of these things. What do we do next? What do we do next after this? Too bad we didn't have it to read it on here. But we actually are intentional about what we're doing. So we have a whole year work plan. And to answer your question, going to Liberia is like one of the main focus of that. Because what's going on is happening on the ground. It's not in America. Even though we would connect or network with other people, but what's going on is on the ground, especially in the rural areas. And that's the focus of our discussion, to be on the ground, to engage with those people, the stakeholders and victims and families and all of that. So that's what we're going to be doing.
Okay. I know, no questions. You all know, we all know, to advocate, it's a tough journey.
Yes.
And at times it's painful. You will pay the price. Madam Washington, she's an advocate, so she's an activist, so she knows it all here. What are some of the potential challenges and maybe backlash of this journey? You taking it on a very peaceful step, but it might not be received on the other side. Says, wait a minute, who these people here? What they think they want to do? Hey, somebody is trying to step on our ratio here, so we gotta go to court. What do you see forecast as some of the challenges and how you intend to deal with this? Because you're going to be talking for people. You're going to be saying things that people don't want to see fixed in society, and you're going to be pointing out ills in society. And that's what people don't like, because they just want to live in a free society, have their will done, to nobody should act in question, they're not liable to anybody. But I don't think that's what this group intends to do.
I will start off first. Some of the potential problems we might encounter would be people coming out, and that's how we want to create a lot of awareness. Like my colleague mentioned, people get raped, their family keep it as a secret. Things happen. So with people not coming out to tell the story, it is a challenge for the group to support them, because we have to know what the issues are to be able to provide the necessary support we need before going out to the other roadblocks with government officials, law enforcement. That is ahead. But what would be what on the ground is to meet the actual victims. Tell your story. If the story are not told, we don't know exactly what happened. We cannot advocate for them. We cannot support them. So that's where we'll start from, creating a lot of awareness. What have happened? It is okay to come up and say what went wrong. It is okay to talk your story. There's no shame in it. And that's why we want to create those level of awareness with people. And once they are comfortable telling their story, letting people know exactly what happened, we can move from that step to the next level. And as we move from one phase to another, we'll face the challenges, see what the problems are, what the solution, and move to the next level.
Yeah, let me just add on. Uh, a big challenge would be, most of us from the cultural background, would be the cultural norm. Uh, violence is violence.
Mm.
Whether it's political, cultural, what have you, it's violence. But with some, we will have to strategize on how to handle, especially when it comes to some cultural violence. We cannot go and, for example, if we enter a village, we see that our girls are not going to school. They are being made to marry at an early age. We see that, for example, the Sandwich Society. These are topics that we have to tread on carefully. Because they are violence. It might be from my background, from where background, they are violence. So we will sit with stakeholders. We are not going to say, okay, impose our beliefs, but we'll sit with our people, educate them, because through education you can accomplish a lot. Maybe we talk to the victims. If the chief, for example, is not willing to listen to us because of X, Y, and Z, we can sit and talk to the victims. We can tell them, we can show them better ways of going about doing things, and they might comprehend and say, you know what, this is the way I would like to go versus the way my grandfather, my grandmother have been going. So cultural norm would be a major hindrance to some of the issues that we want to deal with.
And also, if I may add, we are not going to go with the mind of indicting somebody. That's not the mind we're going with. We are going to train, teach, and also bring awareness and make these families understand what the violence is. Some of them don't even understand that to be a crime. We're going to make them understand that those things are crime that been committed against them or that they have committed. One of the reasons why perpetrators go free is because our people do not know how to preserve evidence. So, for example, if a little girl was raped, they may just throw that evidence away, and then they go to court, there's no evidence. Or if the rape is fatal and the person died, what happened? Sometimes they bury the person before they can even go to report it. So training and teaching and making them understand that these things are crime and this is how you preserve evidence, those are all important things, important steps that we must take to make people understand what to do and what not to do. So those are things that we're going to engage with.
And Alphonso, I just want to add to what my colleagues have said. What I also see as another potential challenge for us as a group is this issue of gaining the public trust. Because other groups have been out there before us. They've been advocating, like you said before. People have been advocating for ever and ever. But our advocacy is going to be a little different. They have different categories of advocacy, which I will not go into, but our advocacy is going to be different. So at the end of the day, let's just say, the proof is going to be in the pudding. We're going to gain the trust of the Liberian people by the way we will work, by our approach, by our solution focus orientation and and approach in doing our work, and just trying to be accessible and flexible in working with Liberians across the board. Because already Liberians are asking, why this group? Why create a new group when people have been advocating already? You have all these advocacy groups. Why
Do
not?
they have legitimate? Is your argument legitimate?
Why not join with another group? But my colleague Beatrice Kanga Gray, that's your A's question answer, and I want you to answer it. You know the way you answer that question. That's your answer. So I just want you to. I don't want to leave because you answer it so well. So I will leave you to answer.
No, but I said it before. I said, Mr. Zean, I said, why not more groups? Why not more groups? Because, like I said, there are different areas of advocacies, right? And like you said, you have mentioned that advocacy is not an easy thing. It's not, especially with the magnitude of what's going on in Liberia, crimes in Liberia, right? So you have different advocacy group, right? One focusing on maybe bringing awareness, getting the actual identifying the cases and bringing awareness. Others focusing on training, others focusing on training the public, and the communities. While others are so focused on the victims, the families, the trauma, the psychological effects, they're focused on that. And that's psychologists that would, be doing that, and others are focused on how do we raise funds.
And others talking about good governance at all.
Exactly. So there are different areas, and it's a big area, So being another group, I mean, we don't have the answers, but we will still work with all of these groups. What are you finding out? What are your challenges? So we're not isolating ourselves. The goal here is to work with everybody. We have sisters and groups that have been doing this for many, many years. And like I said, I can see the fatigue. And I said, studies show that they get really, really tired and traumatized, So it's another way when another group coming to help, when someone is getting tired or lagging to help. So it's not really a bad thing. I think we need more advocacy groups. I think that's my position.
Why
that's
not
our
more?
position. Why not more?
They have many churches, right? They have many churches in the city.
There you go. Okay. This is the kind of justifications we always hear. Sometimes we say, okay, it happened this time around, why this here? Okay. So what is in this for you guys? What is in this for the Liberian women to stop this development? What is in it for you? What do you expect in return? And in reciprocal, I'm saying this to say it. We've been hearing a lot of advocates. They scream, they yell, and then they demand some sort of reward. So we need to talk all of these one and for all. You're advocating for me. It's supposed that I advocate for you because who knows, Lee Allison want to be a senator to represent Massa, Beatrice, if you were to call you, Florence at the end of the day. Hey, look, and everybody has the right to give back to their country, but we need to get a clean cut. Do you guys expect anything from us at the end of the day?
Well, let me start the ball rolling on that one. What's in it? What's in it at the end of the day? I know.
Maybe
why in it for you? Why you?
Okay, yeah. I shouldn't ask a silly question to say woman. So maybe unless I will regrets to come.
Well, when we see the rate of violence start decreasing, that's what's in it. When we see Liberians going about doing their business, not afraid to stay out late because of violence, when everything is safe, I mean, it might not be 100%, but we want to see a decrease. For me, that's why in it for me.
I think me get a different style. Nee, what in it for you?
I'll just add to what Florence said, a decrease, being comfortable. Growing up, we could go to the neighbor's house, male, female, we hang out, stay in the same room, there's no problem. Now, you can't even have a child stay around another male most times and come up fine. So we want to see that level of comfort, being comfortable with opposite sex, younger kids with older opposite sex, being comfortable. That's what is in it for us. See, like Martin Luther King said, you can see a white boy and a black boy walking hand in hand together. We want to see opposite sex walking together, moving together, being in the same spot and being comfortable together. That's what is in it for us. It's the passion that we have that is driving us to this. That's in it for us.
Okay, I think B get a different story. You said from Grand Bassa County, and we're seeing all the whole ballad ongoing here. What in it for you, B?
Let me tell you what's in it for me. I am a mother of 4. I have a little girl. Well, she's not little anymore. She's in college, but that's my only little girl. And I looked at her. She's going to grow up to be a woman. She one day will get married and have a child. And she will be free, be happy. Yet I see 3-year-old babies being raped in Liberia. And it hurts my heart. It really do. And what's happening is that little girl will never have that impact. She will never have the opportunity. She may not be healed. As a girl who was raped, one of the Liberian girls was raped in Nigeria. And right now, one of our foundations, the foundation that I work with, is working with a family to bring that little girl here to be on the campus, the Pennsylvania Children's Hospital, to remove her from Liberia and we've been working on that. And they have formed a team of doctors for her. And what they're doing now is trying to assess her situation. And as they're assessing to form this team of doctors for her, they said she may have skin in her that's folding and that she may have multiple surgeries. She's only 7. And we're working on that. It's a little lengthy process, but we pray every day that she would be removed. So as a human being with soul and heart, it's not about anything but for the little girls, boys, and mothers, women to be free. That's what's in it for me.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Well, I'm sorry, Madam Washington knows this. In this business here, we can't, sometimes it becomes emotional. These are real time thing happening. Madam Washington, you've been in this, the advocacy. I know this story. That's not what we're going to go in. Everybody knows it. This is a task. How are you dealing and coping with this with the rest of the ladies, knowing what is involved? Because, like I said, getting the story I'm hearing from her, which is not strange, but it's a tough one.
Definitely, definitely is is we when we were coming together to form this group, we didn't think it was going to be easy. We were not coming together because we want people to think that we are the good people or we're doing something. We're not looking for self-aggrandizement. It was easier to put this group together because, as you can see, we are all women with great empathy for our common humanity. We're just concerned about what is happening in Liberia. And we've worked at different levels of working with people, with trauma. And we understand because of our roles that we've played in society to understand to a large extent what it entails in trying to do this work. And we also know that everybody is not going to be, like you stated before, everybody is not going to be pleased that we're trying to do this. There are people who want business as usual. They would think that, oh, these women want to stop the violence, or maybe they're after us perpetrators. That's not the case. If you're perpetrating these crimes, we want you to think about it. And everybody knows right from wrong, good and bad. It's not good, stop it. But if it so happens that while in the process of doing our advocacy, if we have to lobby lawmakers to have stronger laws, if we have to even lobby lawmakers to come up with new legislation to be tough on perpetrators perpetrating the crimes, we're going to do that, because we know in trying to address this kind of situation that we have, it is not a one-stop shop. We have to consider all different forms of strategy. Engage the government, engage law enforcement, but then also engage in also so that there's some level of accountability. You know, because like look the story that B just told. Somebody's 7-year-old child. Somebody's 7-year-old child. A team of doctors have to work on the kid now because of the rape and the violation of her. And the sad thing about this is that this is just one of hundreds of stories. Hundreds of stories. This is just 2 weeks ago, I think, or 3 weeks ago. We woke up and read on social media. One of the things I do is I wake up early and then I scan the media quickly to know what is happening before I start to work. Before I clock into work. And just 3 weeks ago, the rape, a 7-year-old neck and threw her body in the open septic tank. A 7-year-old whose parents had dropped her and her siblings off to their grandmother because the parents work. It's a routine. Every day they go into work, they drop their children off to the grandmother. She looks after them, and then when the parents are coming from work, they pick them up and they go home. And this child, people in the community knows this child. And then somebody's 7-year-old child raped her, broke her neck, and threw her body in the septic tank. Just last week, they found a pregnant woman on the old road who was murdered, pregnant woman murdered. So, I mean, what's going on in the minds of these people who are committing this crime? Who looks at a pregnant woman and wants to murder her? I mean, she has a child that she's carrying. So this is why we don't want this to be caught up in the politics. So we want to divorce our own political, affiliations or, from this. We want to be able to do this in a way that we will be able to get the desired results. And so yes, we know it's going to be tough. We know people are going to come at us. We know people are going to be critical, but we are determined we will remain focused. We're not going to pay attention to the noise. We're not going to be fickle about it. We're not going to be unruffled or unraveled because people are going to criticize us. Let people criticize. Like I said, at the end of the day, the proof will be in the pudding. We really want to do this. We have made up our minds. We are committed to doing this, and hopefully God will give us the strength, to do this.
Well, ladies, time has caught up with us here. What a great conversation. Hopefully, we're going to be in fact. LPRA is here. These are anything of a good initiative for the good of our country. But the nomenclature of this institution, that's what we stand for, and that's what we support. Please let us know anytime you intend to get your message. Communication, information sharing is very vital, and that is what lacking. That's why we have all of these issues that we are having. People just throw anything out there, and nobody is there to say, hey, this is not how it should be. This is the way out. So you, and from what I've gathered from all of you here, is a very great thing. I don't want to jump the guns to determine the direction of it and how it's going to end. But what we can say here at LPR, our doors are open anytime, any hour. Please let us know if it requires for you to, have a time where you can communicate your message as well. Let us know. We will make this network available in solidarity of having stable and civilized society. Before you guys make your closing statement here, this is working from my former political leader or former war icon, Nelson Mandela. He was a philanthropist. Mandela reminded a devoted and activist for social justice and peace until his demise in 2023. He felt millions of people worldwide, poorest countries remained imprisoned, enslaved, and in the chain, and added that they are trapped in prisons of poverty. And he proclaimed it is time to set them free. And we know the price that he paid. No voice is too soft when that voice speaks for others. That's an act. That's a singer. That's an actress, Joanna Chakolit, a singer from New Zealand. Those are advocates, and that's what to do. We want to see these advocates in Liberia, not these advocates after let's say little cadeau. You talk and then you want immediate result. After 1 day, 2 days, you want to be rewarded, and you're even demanding it. But it is unfortunate. This sort of a conversation that is ongoing in our country, it makes it very, very difficult. But we will not give a part of that. They deploy these things so that they can just slide through the door, but we can give it a chance. I want to thank you so much. Thank God our collaboration with our sister network in the coming days a week. LPR will be aired on Sky News and television because we want to take on these critical issues. And those people who they think they can going to take advantage of Liberia and the country because of political reasons, we're going to scrutinize people. And we're going to keep it and give them the fair share to get their side of the story. Ladies, I want to thank you so much for your time. Let's go through the room for your closing statement here. Madam Allison Nee, what is the message to our audience before we let you go?
Thank you, Mr. Zean. First, I want to express thanks and appreciation to you for creating this audience for us. Our message is simple. We want to stop the violence in Liberia. That's our goal. And we hope this awareness on the platform you have created for us, it will help to create more awareness for us here and in Liberia. So I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome. Madam Harris?
Yes, thank you so much for giving us the platform. Being an advocate is not an easy task. It has a toll on the person that is carrying on the advocacy because we are humans. It might not be, as my sister said, her child, but it's someone else's child. That's a human. What I take from this is we need more the work. We need more organization that will come alongside to help us not only identify problems, but find solutions and try to do some implementation. This organization is not an organization that will expire within a year or two or after election. This organization, we are in it for the long haul. So we would like to encourage everyone to come on board. The life you save today might be a life that you will save tomorrow that is connected to you. It may not be connected with you today, but as Liberians, we are all interconnected. So I thank you very much for giving us this forum, and we look forward to more collaboration with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. B, I'm sorry if I caused that sort of a breakdown, but I think it is important that these stories, these narratives get out there so people will know there are horrible things happening out there and there's a need that people know that. What is your final message here this evening?
Thank you so much, Mr. Zean, for having us. Tonight you really pull something out of us to really think twice, to think about why, we're in this. You really pulled that out of us tonight. And I want to thank you for that. To really, really look into our soul, to answer that question, why am I really doing this? I want to thank you for that. And I just want to close, if you don't mind. I'm a biblical person. I want to close with a scripture, if that's okay.
Fine,
There is
yeah.
a scripture in it's 2 Corinthians 10:4 that says, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through Christ to the pulling down of strongholds. So I pray that God will give us strength to really do this, to help save a life or lives. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Washington, what are you leaving us with?
Hello?
Yes, yeah, we're hearing you.
Yeah. So I just posted in the chat. I want you to please, if you may, please post the information for the symposium.
Yes.
The date and the address for our symposium will be appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, we will be. I will. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely will do that.
Okay, so we want to thank you again, Alphonso, for hosting us. It's very important. We appreciate that you actually amongst the first group of Liberians to reach out to us to, what it is true that I thought your questions were a little bit tough, but you.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
You yourself, you're tough, so why may you think that?
We can prepare. Your questions were tough, or we can prepare. But it's good you ask those questions, like Dee said, so that because you ask the questions that people would love to ask, but they don't have the opportunity because they're not the host and they're not, on this platform. So we appreciate the questions, and then we also appreciate that you're taking time off to engage us, to have our voices heard, to explain to the Liberian people what we're trying to do. We know it's not going to be easy, not even with us as a group. We have experienced trauma in our lives. We survive different kinds of traumas and stuff, but we have to heal. We have experienced trauma collectively as a nation, as a people, and we have to help each other heal collectively as a nation and as a people to be able to move on. Someone like me, I'm looking at spending my golden years and my retirement years in Liberia. I'm concerned about what kind of society I would be retiring in. Would I have to lock myself in a house with 2 double steel doors, front door and back door, because people are not going to let me sleep at night, armed robbers or whatsoever? Am I going to be in a society where every morning I will wake up and see newspaper articles or hear on the radio that somebody has lost a child to unnecessary violence? Is that the kind of society that we're going to be retiring in? That's not the society I want to spend my golden years in. So we're hoping that the Liberian people will, give us a chance. And as we come out and engage the community, we hope that we will be able to, to work with everybody across the board, but then also as we're asking Liberians to be open-minded and to be, less suspicious and just give us an opportunity to be able to do this. We want to work with everybody across the board. Whether you're in government, whether you're the president, you're not the president, whether you're Yana Ball on the street, whether you're somebody they call Zocos, whether you're a women's group here who is not with our group, you got your own group, that's okay. We have to come together to address this issue of violence in our society because it's a menace. It's a menace, and our society is sick. A society that doesn't protect its own, and it's a sick society. So we need to do something collectively.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Please don't hesitate to let us know if you have articles or the stuff, anything that you need, let us know. Get us to us, and we can have that posted on our official website, which is www.liberiapublicradio.com. Thank you so much. Again, quickly here, the symposium here, we will have to get this message. Is going to be happening on the 17th of September in Delaware. We keep having folks reminded, for those of you within our proximity or even far, please go and hear. They say you can refuse what is behind the core, not the core itself. The content is what is important. Ladies, I want to thank you so much, and we wish you the best of luck
Thank
in
you.
your endeavors and calling for Mama Liberia. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm Alphonso Zean of the Liberia Public Radio and Lpr-Tv. Our team of analysts, contributors, standing by to the site and give their views and opinions. I will be right back. Okay, quickly, time is going. It's 9:39 Eastern Standard Time. Let me bring in the liberal progressive of the Liberia Public Radio, Samson, Blocko, Brown, Toe, Mahina Fee, anybody more. Nobody here in my more is here. Jennington is also here to give this here as well. Our contributors as well. Sese Goyot, aka Samson Tose, Minnesota politician. They are all here. I'm not sure he's behind the whistle. I hope you are doing okay. Gentlemen, here we are. A new advocacy group is being born onto Liberia in the diaspora. I guess you guys follow the conversation pretty well. I saw some tweet coming out from you guys and whatever. So let me start with the liberal. The liberal, how was the engagement? Ooh.
Mr. So we're talking about advocacy, and you put me on on a side that I don't belong to. You switch me over back to my regular position. I'm trying to
Which
advocate
side,
myself.
which
Right?
side you don't belong? The how you do
Mr.
it?
So you switch me to the right position. Here we go. Thank you. I know my position. A liberal is a liberal. But anyway, no. Thank you very much, Mr. So I think it's a wonderful. What's a wonderful show, to be honest with you. Um, the point is, I think you brought some based on the type of questioning that was coming from you. I believe some of them were shocked. I'm not too sure if they were quite prepared, but as an educated person, you always have that left side of your jacket filled with answer, showing case, and you have to utilize that. And I think these ladies did that tonight. They were able to answer all of your questions effectively, I believe. What I also thought that perhaps coming from the beautiful women tonight is that they also realize that, and I think the last lady here spoke about that. They also realize that look, we want to go back home, but we cannot, and hopefully don't go back home to the area where there's violence. But what is missing in all of this conversation that all of these advocates are having, and I will tie this right back to Madam Salif neck. And I'm going to go politics on this here because I don't mind that. Uh, here's what I'm going to do for her. She had an opportunity. She's been fighting for years, many years, to be able to get to this position. She's just like this lady. She used to be one of the advocates here in the United States. In fact, she was one time the economic advisor of PI here in the United States back in the early 70s. And so she been, but when she was given the opportunity to be pretty much the founding father, I would say, she dropped the ball. She decided to go with the croonings that she hang with all these years that were just a crooks, instead of bringing in people that perhaps will help us to reestablish. Because when she came in, Liberia was pretty much open. Liberians and Liberia was pretty much open to anything good that will come out of the government. Children have just left. Liberian was tired dying. They were tired fighting. They were tired being hungry. They were ready to do whatever it takes to rebuild our country if they come in and just leave. And she started that. There's a video out there. She started it with Firestone. Bravely went to Firestone, approached Firestone. Enough is enough. Our people have suffered a lot. And I'm paraphrasing here. But there's a video about her talking to Firestone, roughly, respectfully, but roughly, and truthfully as well. But she didn't press the issue. She decided to bring in some young people, which was good. But many of the young people were just as crook as anything else.
Okay.
They were just wicked to the Liberian people. Let me spill myself out, please. We got time. Let me spill myself out. This is just too bad for me tonight. She brought in these young people, and instead of going to work for the Liberian people, they decided to do things for themselves. They decided to think about their retirement. At an age of 37, 47, they were thinking about retirement and what I can do and what I can get. And some of them are rich today. And what happened? Immediately after their term was over, they all fled the country. You got Judy Moore running around here thinking, say, some sort of an international or superstar who was unable to do anything at public work. Effectively, it was Judy Moore who gave us the East International that is now messing the Ralphie Highway up. And he's sitting around here in Washington, D.C. area thinking that he's doing something for whatever it is. But he's not alone. And so I'm saying here, the women, this group tonight, and I'm not too sure if there's just this, many of them realize, look, I've suffered, I've educated myself, first of all, in the diaspora, and I've worked hard. I've did some little saving that I think if I'm able to transfer that to Liberia, I will live comfortably without me begging for government job. But is that country safe? Instead of these people to go and truly, they know the problem. You got child soldiers who are traumatized. How do you do that? Bring professional on that will be able to help them and bring them to a certain level. They're not doing that. They never did it. Madam Sally, what did she do? Brought in her kids, her children, to run the government. Her children, leaving behind many intellectual Liberians, and decided to bring in stepchildren because the weak build them up into the government. This is ridiculous. And we will come on top of it. But these people need to be reminded. We will come out of it. We will come out of it. Liberia is not going to remain like that.
So are the children, were they qualified to work?
Excuse me?
Were they qualified to work?
They are crooks.
Okay. Let me go to Jennington. Jennington, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I think we had a conversation with Verseric. We got what we intended hearing from the ladies, the symposium, and what is in the making here. But the apprehension there is, and I think they did recognize that because there are a lot of people out there profess to be this, and that's the bad thing about it. Because sometimes the good ones can end up coming the last, and before they come on stage, the road is already muddy. But you follow the conversation extensively. What did you gather from these ladies, their missions, their goal, and what they intend to do? How is it perceived?
Firstly, thanks again to all of you for being here and for also following them. What I gathered from them, a group called Women's Advocacy to End Violence in Liberia. The likes of Madam Beatrice Kanga Gray, Madam Massa Washington, and Mead Allison. I think they spoke well. They spoke their mind. They spoke about the hiccups of violence in our society. They spoke to the best of their understanding about how they can contribute to a violent and free society. I think I have my own assessment about some of what is spoke about. Uh, Violence. First, we have to understand what is the root cause of violence, what causes violence, and what are the different. So the causes of violence can be related to frustration, whether in a home, whether the violence is caused by political violence, whether the violence is caused by domestic violence, whether the violence is caused by sexual violence, exposure to violent media is another component of violence that is spoken about. Violence against the wife, against the relationship, physical violence, psychological violence, violence that lead to neglect. So as I was speaking about violence, I was trying to read a little bit about violence and catch up on them. So one of those things that sought is the violence that leads to neglect. So, and I think that violence links with the political aspect. So people are dissatisfied on the overall. A lot of people feel otherwise because they are not their thoughts, they are not being protected, and so they result in maybe more violence where you see a Zogo or underprivileged youth reject the form of a pedestrian run in one hard of area where it is known to be a gang area, and then no one goes there because that's what all the people in the community are aware of. And at the end of the day, when it is done too much, then the angry crowd themselves get annoyed without measure to the degree of what are happening, and then it gets involved in mob violence. So political agitation, which is a form of violence too, is where, for instance, as we speak currently, it comes out of frustration, like we say, psychological as well. Like we say, lawmakers requesting that, for example, there should be, when you are a senator, a representative, a president, vice president leaves office in a kind of difficult condition of our country where you had a food rice, where bulk of the rice is imported by importers, and our agriculture is not performing to reducing that archaic thought, and then lawmakers are passing instruments that will benefit 50% of the current earning when should they leave government. That leads to psychological violence. It leads to violence of neglect, where people feel neglected, and then they take the laws in their hand during electoral period. Those are the things that set the violence in a boiling position, whether the ordinary man getting vexed with the Zogo and not getting vexed with the people who are corrupting the system and reducing their livelihood for decades to just beggars and ordinary handlers. So those are things that cause it. If we want to address it, whether I differ with them or slightly little, and I know the reason why they don't want to address it from the political angle, is in the political direction, there's nothing working for the ordinary people. Absolutely nothing working for the ordinary people. So any association that wants to play fair, to be balanced in her advocacy or in her thought, the best thing they think to do is to evolve the political aspect. It's not to join political party, but they just do not believe that getting associated with political institution or political will from government will help. And when there's no political will from government, you will have increased violence in your society because the government does not have mitigating ways in order to reducing violence in the country. That's why these organizations must closely associate and affiliate with government, must seek the political will from government in how to end violence. So you say to government to end violence, you don't give the underprivileged youth money when they are already in drug cartel area. What you do to them is that you rehabilitate them, move them to another level. They learn carpentry, they learn plumbing, they learn different sort of things. They are incorporated into the community, and then they adopt new postures. Instead of them giving them the money, which is just haphazard, at the end of the day, it increases the number of underprivileged or what we call Zogo youth groups. I think that's what I see.
All right, let me bring in Sissy here. Sissy, is everything okay there?
Yeah. I got off the freeway. I wanted to get off the highway to park. So I parked in at a gas station because I didn't want to be driving on the video. So
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. But I saw you tweeting crazy out there to you monitors and everybody else monitors. Hopefully, I think they're going to try and send somebody here. But they try to walk a fine line, not making this sort of political here. But this is where the a little bit confused my age because if not all, there's no data tied to get to that. But we see what is unfolding on the social media and what is happening on a daily basis. More or less, these violence are more or less political. And if you don't want to take a sort of political line, for example, to say, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. We will engage the government. At the same time, we're going to lobby out here with Uncle saying this specific thing needs to be done in order to quiet down this violence. But what is happening here tonight, like you are afraid of cassava snake and you end up jumping into boa constructor because you want to play a fine tone here. What do you think was missed in this conversation?
So first thing, I I appreciate any group of Liberians that come together to try to coalesce around an action that will bring some peace and some level of humanity to our people in Liberia. So I know of few of those ladies in the EULA circle. So they've been leaders in the Liberian diaspora community. However, though, I think they were a little bit shaky. They came with one idea, and then when the question got posed about politics, I think they hadn't formulated or solidified what they actually meant, because political affiliation, like I wrote, is different from political action. Political action is not political affiliation. I don't have to belong to the ANC. I don't have to identify as Gonglo a supporter or George Weah supporter in order for me to take political action. Because you're talking about the rule of law and the lack of the enforcement of the rule of law. That requires political action. Whether it means you're going to go to the House or the Senate and lobby people, that's political action. Whether it means you're going to get people in the streets, that's political action. That is civil disobedience, but it is political action, right? And so I like that they finally later on bent towards that and try to kind of clear out what they meant about not being political. But my disappointment, though, is that I think they're trying to eat their cake and have it too. You cannot be advocating for justice for victims of very horrible violence. You know, I'm thinking about a 7-year-old girl story that they ended up on. That is a brutal violence. And to say that, oh, we'll just be talking to people, so we want for people to just stop it, so they can stop it. We're not going to do. You cannot be trying to appease people who are inflicting violence on people simply because you want to have a space at the table. That space is going to be tainted. If you get that seat at the table because you are not trying to take action because you don't want to hurt a particular group of people, then you are not in advocacy. In advocacy, you kept asking them, what is the end goal? You have to have an end goal. And if you have an end goal in mind, and if that end goal is about providing justice for people who have been aggrieved and wronged, and you're trying to move the system to apply and provide equal justice under the law, then you have to be willing to accept that. I don't want to use Trump, but let me use Trump when he said there were good people on all sides when that racist stuff happened, when those people were marching, right, and people got killed. There are not good people on all sides. No. People who are carrying out these kind of heinous acts, rape of children, rape of any kind, women, girls, and boys, and killings, is wrong. I don't care if it's being carried out by people who are attached to the higher echelon of government. It is wrong. You have to be willing to call them out. But to say, oh, you know, we're not for this. We just want to make sure that we talk to people. So like that one person, like they even try to say that people who carry out violence are usually people who are lower level, and so they're not going to look at those lower level people. They're going to look at people who are influencing them. Yeah, no, you can walk and chew gum at the same time. You can hold everybody accountable, but this whole weaving in and trying to be nice to everybody, I think it does a disservice to the victims of violence. Because if I'm a victim of violence and you're trying to come and advocate on my behalf, but you're trying to say, oh, let's be nice to your violators, it's even more violated.
Right. The one that inflicted the pain, you want to be.
Yes, I will feel more violated. So I think they need to go back, and this is not a disrespect, but sit down and actually really try to crystallize what do they really want and how would they get there, and be willing to know that they once you try to fight for justice, it doesn't matter what kind of a justice, the system, whoever is the system of the day, it's not going to give to you easily. It's not going to bend to you easily. So you got to be willing to accept the blows. But you have to have a focus, and you have to crystallize what you're going for.
What are you going for? Let me bring the guy from the far right here. So I think this thing going to go off the radar here. Amos George, I did post the question of this violence. There are people who are the presiders or caretaker in charge. You're having a symposium, which is great speakers, people going to be here. But I think key people, because I did post that question, who are going to be some of those people that I invited, stakeholders, and I kept asking, is the government? Because ultimately, yes, you can talk to ANC, yes, you can talk to Joseph Boyka, yes, you can talk to Nyombi Kanga Lawrence, yes, you can talk to the other folks, Ability, and all of those people. But the guy who is in charge of state security for lives and property is the governing party, is the ruling party, is the president. If they are missing, or say maybe the Ministry of Justice, not necessarily the president, the Ministry of Justice is the chief prosecutor in charge of the security. If these people are missing at the symposium, at the conference, what are you gathering? What are you taking away? How can they coordinate? Amos George, let me bring you. You follow the conversation here. All we are doing here is to help them to cement and see how it can be boom, because we want them to be successful. So, what did you take away from this conversation here today?
Since it not need Mr. Tool, how you doing? I'm a little bit confused because look, we come here, we sit here, we talk. Talking here, it comes with risk because we say things about some people they don't like. And it is a fact. But we have chosen to go down that path. I heard them, and some of the things that they explained are scratching my head. But let me, your question.
What are you scratching your head for?
First thing I want to know, they will be on the Brian Maruf. Is this organization registered? One question. Second, you cannot go to Liberia or what are you in Liberia doing anything of that nature that the government would not be aware of it. Because you got, according to them, they got to travel to villages and things. So you have to have a system in place that the government, whether illegal or not, they must be aware of, because maybe you might be going somewhere. Because the nature of what you're going to do, you might need some security. I don't know whether they have taken all that into account. And this organization they're forming, is it only girls or women they're looking at, or society as a whole? Which one? I don't know whether they were able to explain that. Because I see social women, so I don't know whether the Africans would be just for against violence against women or violence against men. I don't know. But here's the thing here. You cannot call someone a victim to talk to them that they should come out and tell the story. And at the end of the day, say, oh, go sit down. Anyway, let the person who did it, they stay laying, they just leave them alone. Then I don't think you have people to come out to tell the story. Because people want assurance. Some of the people who have done this thing, perpetrated this criminal crime against people, they are still around, they see them. And if you ask them to come out to talk, what are you going to provide as a protection for them? And this person, you say that, well, you don't want to go to court with them, they stay around. Every time that person says that person is some fear in them. So I don't know how their advocacy is going to be. They let it get touch on something. They talk about culture. And this is a problem I always talk about. We cannot continue to take Western culture to impose on certain group of people because we want to get some funding from them. Because these are some of the things that happen. For example, I heard saying, oh, some of us in the villages, we got to go and talk to people about the Sandwich Society, this and that. You can't talk to no chief about that. The chief got no control over that. I don't know. I'm saying here, I'm a member of a society. It was not my will to say to go, but it was something that our parents did. You are small, they couldn't make decisions to take you there. They initiated you, okay. But I can say to people, that should be left with individual will to say, hey, I'm going away, I want to do this, I can do this. But to go, now people have gone to say they abolish it. The other time, some people in my giving, whereby the law, they have passed a law banning Poro society and Southern society. But the other time, I saw people on Facebook, the fine said they would never leave it. Government cannot ban them from doing it because it's their culture. So when you go in there, how are you going to tell these people? I think what they should be talking about is that, look, what you're doing, let it be something that someone grow enough mature to say, okay, I will decide to do it. I will decide to go there. But for you to say you're going to go against and tell people, oh, this is a wicked way, so you have to abandon it. That is a very slippery slope. Very slippery slope to walk with. Because some of us who know about this society, the chief got no control over it. The chief has no say in it. The chief has no say in it. So how you going to tell the chief to call these people and say, hey, you got to abandon it when the chief has no say in it? You go approach that chief, the chief will say, hey, I don't want no trouble.
All right.
So Mr.
They're going through. They're going to take. And the last thing I want to say is that there are other people, other advocate groups around. Are they going to call us around these people who are some of them have been since 10, 15 years, they have been around, 5 years, they have been doing some things. Water, oil is right, but they have been making some effort. So now they are coming. Are they going to work with other groups in Liberia that have been on the ground?
Yeah, I think that they were very definitive on that they're going to work with other people.
So Mr. So, real quick before you leave to go somewhere else, I apologize. Just 1 minute, real quick.
The show is not over yet.
No. I wanted to make before you bring somebody else on. I wanted to make a quick point that to buttress what Mr. George was just saying, and because I wanted to touch on that, but my question was kind of specific. It's about the Senate Society.
Yeah.
You know, usually people who speak about the Poro and the Senate Society are people who know very, very little at best about the Senate Society. To assume that the only thing that happens in the Senate Society is the female genital mutilation is a gross misunderstanding of the Senate Society. People go over there and spend years sometimes. And this is where traditionally women went to learn how to farm, how to raise children. It is a school. It's almost like saying that I would not go to the University of Alabama because they carry out hazing. And so because they carry out hazing, the entire institution is all about hazing. No, there is a way we can teach our people and say, yo, female genital mutilation is not okay. It's not healthy. What else can we do to maintain the larger part of the Senate society, which has to do with raising women to be mothers and to be wives and to be caregivers and to be bearers and holders of our society? I went to the Pro Society when I was young, but I went back there several times as a chief. And I went back there and saw the rituals, and I saw the teachings. And so usually people should be speaking on stuff that they've done extensive research on. Do not just come and reduce the Sender society to only female genital mutilation. That is a gross disrespect to our culture.
Okay, I come in. Hold on one second. I come in. This seems not to be going down well as usual with the Liberal, because from his visual expression here, he's spinning, he's rolling, and ready to rock and roll. The Liberal,
Mr. So, these people tonight are really, really shaking me up. I cannot believe to hear from the Minnesota politician and the central right are trying to pick a point here as though they have monopoly over whatever it is that they're trying to discuss. Far from it. No. Look, guys, central right, the Liberal is on the floor. Let me just say this here quickly. We try you guys' way, and we didn't get anything. You're something else. You want the women to come and decide to say we want punishment and therefore take a definitive position. Are you kidding me? We took a definitive position with Charles Taylor. What happened? We want a result. What happened? We want a punishment. What happened? Please, guys, let me say this here quickly. Why it is okay to come and say that the women shouldn't be waffling around and what have you, whatever way you want to describe it, that's okay with me. But what I want to tell you is this. I think there's a saying that said you can catch honey with sugar rather than if you use vinegar. These are women. And first of all, you recognize quickly, Sissy, as experienced as you are, that they're trying to find their footing, number one. And second thing is this, even if they go about approaching the societal issues as you and Mr. Joyce are saying, which is quite correct. You cannot impose your will on those society things. We all have society in our own different culture. You can't come from Monroe and say you want to implement that. When Dr. Weah went to Southtown the last time, when he was doing that, he's singing, he told the Monroe people, take that your south back to Monroe. This is what we do here. And this is how I agree with you. But what I want to say with these women stuff, let's give them credit. And also, these are women. That's what they do. These are mothers. That's what they do. They handle us with kid gloves. They don't come at us. For example, this is what I grew up with, high-headed. When your dad ready for you, then your mom say, okay, let me talk to you in a little bit. Talk to your dad so you don't get that kind of whooping. And she have that kind of discussion. She's not going over there. Don't whip me like my son. Don't touch him. No, she don't do that. She'll talk softly. That's what they do. That's what make them mothers. That's what make them daughters. They come to these kinds of hardcore conversation with some sort of a medicine for all of us. They're not coming from a position of weakness, and not because you want them to come out and take a defendable position as to whether they're going to come and punish people. People should be held responsible. Of course, we all know that. But the approach that they're bringing in to say, look, let's try this way of punishing. Where has it taken us? We punish. We came out 250 shot of human being. We tried to punish people because we thought they were doing wrong. We punish. What do we have right now? What exactly do we have that we can boast of? Nothing.
We are not punishing anybody yet for that.
You want to kumbaya between perpetrators and victims?
No, we can't do that.
We should do kumbaya.
There ain't no kumbaya here. This is
what you say.
Let me make my point. You guys were talking. I didn't say anything. Let's do it. Let's keep it the way it is. So let me make a point. The last one I want to make, and then both of you can jump on it as you want. And you know who I am. My hand thing, your mom. Your hand thing, my mom. I block you. You can't do nothing to me. Let me make the last point here. The women, the sisters and daughters of Liberia, men have tried, and apparently they're failing massively. And so let's get, and if you listen to these ladies tonight, first thing you will give them, highly educated, well-trained in their own areas. And so they will try to apply that training, whatever they get, to make sure they get some result. So I'm just saying to both of you, but the Minnesota politician is a center right, so I expect nothing less. Anyhow, I'm just making my point. So that's what I want to say.
So, Sese.
Yes, sir.
Let me come back to you before going to Janitor. As usual, it's always a divided house here, which is part of the day school here. And I see some of the tweets coming on, of course, Madam Washington's manager did not ask the question as to whether the question I posed was whether they are collaborating with other people, which itself is another way of saying, do you have a working team or do you have some representation at the plan? But you listen to the Liberal. The Liberal is the Liberal, and I was asking the question as well. Okay, you know about my story. What next? What is the action plan? And I think that's where you come in Amos and the Liberal slash it right off from.
And that is the point I was trying to make here. You know, I came on and I immediately recognized the I know Nee from EULA. I know Ms. Washington. I've heard of her. I know the quality and what they bring to the discourse. My position here as a panelist on here is to say where I see gaps. And the Liberal can pontificate all he wants. The point here is that we are not saying that men should be in charge. We never once said that. We are not trying to say, oh, women are not able to lead. As a matter of fact, the peace movement that brought an end, that was heavily responsible for bringing an end to the Liberian civil crisis, was led by women. Hence the reason Madam Bowie got the award for the Nobel Peace Prize. But what we are saying here is that, look, I understand the analogy. In my home, and I want to beat my son and my child, and my wife say, "Oh no, don't beat my child," and they talk softly. But there is still action. There is still consequence. My wife does not go and say, "Oh, forget it," and you will learn about it next time. No, she talks to that person. There's still chastising going on. There is still an acknowledgement of my child that there has been an abrogation of the rules in the house. Okay, and of course, I'm seeing people writing, oh, you know, I saw one of the tweet that they want to make sure the system works. Well, how do you make sure the system works if you are not holding the system accountable? You can't. The system cannot. Look, power does not concede easily. No way. And I'm not saying that people in power are the one carrying out violence, but to say, for example, in a situation where the 7-year-old kid that was raped, that we cannot push that somehow there has to be a kumbaya in Mr. To's, in the Liberals' voice, that is wrong. I think that creates more harm. I think that even violates the violator even more. And that's the point I'm making. You have to decide when you are in advocacy. We all have been in advocacy. We've all agitated in this place. We all have marched in Minnesota here, in Minneapolis. I've led several marches. When you get in advocacy, advocacy is not devoid of political action. There is no way you can be devoid of political action and want to have an advocacy that use any modicum of success. And so the point we're trying to make here is that they have to be able to not try to say we can kill flies with honey. We are not trying to get perpetrators honey. You don't try to make the violators comfortable. That is not right. That is not advocacy. That's the point I'm making.
What do you do to the violators?
Well, what you do to the violators is first thing, you ensure that they know where you stand, that you're not going to create a table where you come and create a dialogue between the violators and the violator. That should not even be anything. You make them to understand that you are not in the business of having a conversation with the violators at the behest of the violator.
No engagement. Is that what you're saying?
Well, here's the thing: you engage them through the law. There are laws on the books.
Okay, so
and one last thing, if there are people who are in charge of the law and they're refusing to carry out the law, then you create other political avenues. I'm not saying to go and endorse political party. I'm not asking for political affiliation, but I'm asking for political action. And political action can come in several ways, including lobbying, including civil disobedience. But you cannot be asking to create a table where the violators and the violator come and sit, where the violator feel at ease. That is not advocacy.
Okay, I'm going to be reading this tweet here to see what I commensurate with the point here. This is Madam Beatrice Kangagre, one of the members of this here. And I'm going to be putting that to Janet Totten. This is what she's tweeting out here. It is up to the justice and the police departments to punish. We have to make sure the capacities are available through our advocacy. Janet Totten. Are you hearing me now?
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Yeah. You saw the tweet coming from B.
Yes.
Yeah, a commensurate with yes, we're talking it, but there are people who are responsible for the action plan to say, hey, to determine who does the wrong, who the law should be held accountable. From that tweet, is that a good strategy?
I think it's part of the strategy. It's part of the civic educational aspect of the process. To educate people as to what the national police will need in order to execute on the basis of rape, where DNA machines are lacking, but yet you have to investigate and authenticate as to whether somebody raped another person. You have to advocate so that they have the necessary equipment. You have to advocate in order to see to it that ritualistic killers or people who are accused of ritualistic killing or secret killings are brought to book. Sexual violence, like I've mentioned, neglect about because violence, I don't want violence to be reduced to only sexual, ritualistic. There are elements of things that breed violence. The last time I checked, there would have been a serious violence of Heaver if the economic freedom fighter who went to close the Capitol building because they were collecting 30,000. If that thing, if they have been not careful or not mindful, it would have blown into serious violence. Political actors protesting about lack of governance issues, it leads to violence. So I don't want violence to only be about you molested a child, you rape a 7 years old child, you beat on a child who is living with you and you brought her in a hinterland, or you took an immature child and carried the child into the sandal bush, and then you have the issue of female, genital mutilation as a conversation. Like we can revisit the culture and see
the culture was more or less we didn't go that far. More or less, we're talking about the culture aspect. My guess is the way things are done in a traditional context.
Yes, I know. I'm just saying it because the next time I guess their concept note will have to take into consideration all these things in order to touch them at different level. I'm not saying that that's what he said, but what I'm trying to say is that we have to look at violence in its holistic form and the mitigating aspect towards violence. Who should be held accountable when violence takes place? What are the things that are causing the wave of violence, and how can it be approached in order to reducing the level of violence in our society? A society that had nearly all of its local communities in Monrovia with graveyards, and the graveyards are inhabited by Zogos who are jacking phones, who are raping women, coming from club late night and harassing people who citizens themselves when they apprehend those individuals, they carry on more violence. Is something that we should address in a holistic manner. And the way to go about it is to holding national government to have the willpower to prosecute those individuals who are carrying the violence, rehabilitating those people who violence may affect, either by being zogo, because that leads you to being violent because you want to find a daily bread and you have to violate other people's rights, including those who molest our children, our female children, and even at bars. Because I remember the story of T-Ball, the labor whose tongue was cut in his mouth. It was alleged that he violator tried to sodomize him, and because he would have explained the story, so he went as far as, getting his tongue off his mouth. So that was dangerous, and it speaks to the issues that we have ahead with belligerents who are not de-traumatized versus people recruiting people to be, to instill fear, speeches of fear, speeches that undercut the tenets of democracy and all this sort of thing, and they're moving freely and they're associated affiliates of government. So the willpower got to come from government and be enhanced by the advocates who now will see that indeed government offer persecuting violators as well as restoring the dignity of the victims.
Okay, because there were a couple of questions and we're asking the representation and the reasons I injected these political parties and their leaders and even national government in order to solidify their own agenda, what they want to do, so that tomorrow we, all of us, can be the main actors can be held accountable. Wait a minute. At some point in time, the women's group, advocacy group, called you. You attended a symposium. You attended a function, and you pledged your support. You promised that you're going to change course. That's that's one of the major concerns, because if they are not there, they will say that I know we were not there. We were not part of the conversations. We were just inducted. I think all of these actions. But this is why Madam Massa Washington is shooting out. Nobody said people will not be held accountable. We are not law enforcers, which of course they do not have the capacity. They can just maybe later. We are not law enforcers to enforce compliance or punish perpetrators. We can only the law with the proper authorities to enforce the law and hold perpetrators accountable within the context of our broader goal of ending the violence. But we will to work with appropriate authorities that includes, I believe, national governments and all of the apparatus responsible to keep law in place, authority to address the violence. That is why we mention engaging law enforcement, the legislature, etc. So more or less, it's coming out here. Amos George,
Yeah.
yes, change in the concept of your argument, and now more is coming. But the questions were also posed in the context in which they were answering.
Yeah, but I mean, Sister Marcia, I've been on the same page, and this is what we were saying. And now you see what they're writing. You can, because I heard you asking them. They said it would not be like TRRC started. It was given mandate, they're not going that way, and they would not be there to prosecute. We know that any organization that don't have the power to prosecute people is the police. That is the Minister of Justice that take that responsibility when crime is committed against any Liberian. But if you are there as an advocate group for a certain group of people, you have to be there to help to facilitate that process. And she knows she's a lawyer, she knows it. So, because you can't just go and grab the perpetrator and just turn it over to the police and turn your back. No, because it will not work. You have to be there. You have to have representation there. So these are some of the things we're talking about. So, but let me say this again. Let me go back on something. Going back to this cultural thing. Nobody, all these people we're talking against this traditional institution. Do they ever advocate to?
But where is this traditional thing coming from?
Well, they mentioned the Sunday society as an example, and that's what they did mention the Sunday society as an example. Okay. And they talk about the mutilation. They talk about mutilation, so that is the reason.
Yeah. So, but the question I ask people: do they ask Do so many people know anything about the Mason, the UBF, the All-Fellow, the Masonic Temple? Do they even know anything about it? Why they don't advocate for the people to ban those institutions? Because they are Western style institutions. They don't talk about it. Some of them don't even know what took place in there. They don't talk about it. But it's the culture of the people they frown on. And that's where that's where the time coming from. It's not right. If you say people are very we get to work all the other institutions, also because they are Western culture. Are you saying that Western culture some think they don't follow the other people right?
Do you see there as destructions of traditional or culture?
Yes, it is a destruction of the culture. Female vigilance is practiced all around the world. And people get benefit for banning these things. For those Westerners who push our agenda.
Do you want it to continue or not?
Of course, I have said it. I will not take my daughter or son there. They will go there willingly. All I say it should be left with individuals to decide what they want to do. But you can't come out to say.
Can you advise? Can you provide counsel on it? And what would that be?
Who, man?
Yeah, if you were to ask to provide counsel on that, what would
the counsel be? Just what I'm saying. That hey, leave your child, let your child reach your age and decide what to do. And now some of the children in school, high school, they leave and go and join the parent society and come back to go to school. So they know it.
I think though, I wholly respect the Science Society because it is a school.
Yes.
But there are aspects to the extent that science has come and caught up with the idea that female genital mutilation or female circumcision is not benefiting. I think that's what culture is about, right? You learn something new, you admit, and you move on. I think that is a good conversation to have and say, well, we need to stop that. How can we stop it? But my problem I had was to come and throw the entire Sunday society under the bus. As if to say the only thing that gets done in the Sunday society is female genital mutilation. For me, brought us on the idea that you don't understand what their culture is about. I will not take my children to the Sunday society. I do believe that there are parts of it that needs to be looked at and needs to be discontinued. But you cannot talk holistically about a society, a Sunday bush, and you narrow that to just one aspect of it. I think that is wrong, and that is a gross misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Okay, as for us here at LPR, we respect the views and opinions of our onliners because some of them don't like to call, which is okay. As long as their expressions and views in the civil context, we do not hesitate to add it. This is one of our followers. Mr. Tucker is saying, sad and unfortunate, you guys are misrepresenting and politicizing to what is women a noble cause to end into violence within the republic. But cannot say, I am surprised. We have a history in Liberia of women solving problems while the men grounds and politicize everything. As demonstrated here. This one seems to fit the jacket of the liberal progressive.
Let me just close on this thing here. So let me say this to these people. Let me say this. We know in Liberia, violence has all been perpetrated against women from men. That is obvious. And some of us frown on it. I do not support any man who touches any woman. And I don't support any woman beating on a man. I don't subscribe to it. So if any group comes that they want to help to end or to minimize, or if they can, I know they can eradicate it because they are all human beings who all misbehave. But anything they can do to help in that direction, I'm all for it. But the only thing that I'm speaking sometimes is that you do not just take one issue or one group of people to say, well, or you try to stigmatize them with something that probably you have a knowledge or have little knowledge of to go about it. Those are some of the issues that I'm raising. And the next year there is not this organization I would not want to say they should talk about all the violence that taking place in Liberia, because every institution that come organize, they got a purpose, they got a goal, they got an objective. If they say this is a role we want to play, then of course they have to work within that role that they have defined that they want to play. So I don't want for someone or to stretch at the bone, look at the total violence in Liberia holistic is no. Because that's why they decide that this is the point or this is the impact we want to make on this group. So I know, so I don't want to tie to the entire violence that's taking place in Liberia. Once they have come out to say that this is why they want to go, I don't have a problem with it.
All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a pushing around here, the liberal.
No, I was just going to say why I vehemently disagree with them. But I just want to say, in the interest of fairness, the great Grugabui you call in Town area is something that gave us, some of us, because I used to be a drummer for Grugabui girls. And I used to drink a lot of King Juice. So taking that away, I'm not too sure if I'm going to be completely on board with it. But what I can say and what is good about it is that this is culture. You can't say you want to take something out of the culture and leave, because these things are intertwined. So if you're going to try to eradicate certain things, first of all, what are you bringing in place? I mean, that's what I keep saying, that we, not just Liberia, but Africa as a whole, we're so confused. It's unbelievable. You here in America, you marry one woman, you go back home, you get about 4 or 5 of them, and then you think that you're doing something. What is that? Who are we? We're so confused. You come in this place, you learn all the book you want. You go back home, you start stealing. Here, when you work in the bank, you can't even take their money. You look at the money, you can't touch it. But when you get back, when you see the same amount of money, you want to own it. Who are we? So for me, Mr. So, these kinds of subject matter, they're very personal, and we have to handle it, including the ladies themselves. They are with me. They know what these things are. Perhaps if some of them and can try, like Sissy was suggesting, try to find out more. Not just from mere example writing and then you try to run with it. Try to find out more to see exactly why people do these things. Why is it up to this time? With girls are happy to, the girls up in the country are still happy. And these people, and most of you girls in the country, especially in my area, they don't come to Grugabui until like they're around 15, 16 years old. So they're not babies that people are holding their hands to go and do it. They're grown up, and they must have a reason. So find out what go into these villages. Why are we doing this? And let them explain to you. And if it doesn't make sense to you because you're now civilized and you're now westernized, so then you say, okay, this is my suggestion. What are you bringing in place of that will still be able to maintain that connection? These culture help to connect our people. If it wasn't for the war, our people will still be connected. Let me tell you one story, and this was widely reported. One time, Charles Hitler sent people in the society bush to go and destroy the place. They came by, other people are swimming in the middle of the town, no water, but they said they see river, they're swimming. When they came by, some of them, they got each, it was reported. I was here in America, I read it. The guy wrote, people are swimming in a all over rock and said that the water. Other people are there, they're eating their body whole day. These things have effect. You can't
gentlemen,
no.
Let's do our last from the page here. We're going to be back here in subsequent time. But let's do our last.
Mr. So, were you talking while I was talking?
What is it? Something to I am in charge.
I know that, but I'm wondering. I didn't learn my statement. You tried to undercut my point.
Where's the plane? Where's the plane now?
When my people are supporting me tonight, now you want to cut my point so that I will look bad.
Okay, let the plane land. Let's see where the plane.
No, I'm done. I just said that if we're gonna get in these kinds of conversation on a very serious note, let us do it from the perspective of those who are being affected. Okay. We can't sit down here in Sacramento and try to implement our rules in Liberia.
Well, that's the beauty of this network. Diversity is always take preeminence. Gentlemen, let's do some fixes here, and I support all in an honest faction here. Jonathan, is there anything we want to mention anything before we do the closing?
I just want to say that the women, they are make some disclaimer. I think they kept posting that they are not saying that they want to get
Meaning
rid of.
we should have a rematch or replay of.
No. What I mean, some of them have been making statements that they are not saying that you get rid of the Senate Society or the poor. They are saying that they are there to provide education, and I think it ties into what Ceci have been saying about culture can change, especially based on scientific, experience and proven record. Things that are not being done appropriately. As a matter of fact, to compare the Freemason and the traditional culture, I think one group of people are either been complaining, and that's why the social worker have been working with the female genital mutilation situation. It needs education, it needs to be addressed, but there are other decent components of our Senate society and poor society that must be kept, to keep the sanity of our culture and heritage, that no one would disagree with it. So I just think that the piece I would just make, and if I could be permitted, I don't know whether you closing, just close one for all.
Yeah, let's do the closing act. And the closing aspect, what I want, based on the conversation tonight with the women group, let's do some fixes here. If you were to call in, or if they were soliciting views, opinions, suggestions, what could possibly you suggest to them moving forward?
Yes, what I would suggest is that we can say it or we won't say it. Like I said, people don't see government as a partnership group because most of government activity is political, and the history of our political governance has not yielded the fruits that will give abundant reason why there is an aggressive approach towards the reduction of violence in our society. And instead, government have been multiplying the reason why there will be violence in our society. So I will be advising them to call on government to see reason to have the willpower first to take in the different steps that will reduce violence all by itself as government, whether by making law, whether by implementing policy, whether by looking after underprivileged people. And those are different elements that exacerbate into different levels of violence, where you see violence, domestic violence, official government, carry on violence against his girlfriend or a relationship, ordinary person carry on violence against a poor innocent 3-year-old child by raping that child, and the public carrying violence against a Zogo who is terrorizing them, and they are getting hold of that Zogo, and the law not keeping up to its course. So there are too many things that I think we can talk about, but I think they are still in the fixing stage of their organization, and we just wish them that we are engaged government so that we can all do this thing together.
Okay, we are running out of time yet. Amos George, what are your recommendations? What are your fixes?
I would just ask them to consult with as much people in Liberia on somebody that they want to do, because it has to be a collective effort of each and every one of us to make sure that what they want to do to succeed. So, I mean, the major players got to be involved, because at the end of the day, the government is the one that has the prosecutorial arm that can prosecute people, not any other citizen. So if all those people are brought on board, then with the pressure that they will be putting on, will force government to take the appropriate action against those who do the heinous crime in Liberia against the women. And so that's just what I would recommend to say to people. And let me say the last word is that culture is the way of life of people, and these things serve as discipline.
Man, there is an open challenge.
Stacey can bear me. When we used to go to the village, we leave from Aurora, you go to the village, you don't cost in the town.
Why are you always holding Stacey?
No, but because myself come from the same society. You know what I'm talking about. Stacey, yes, it is. You don't cost in the town. You don't cause no woman. You don't hurt your friend. You don't waste nobody's blood in the town. These were things that kept our towns and villages stable because of that discipline. So when people sometimes don't understand these things, they try to make it like it's so ugly that nothing good come from these things.
Okay.
Are there changes needed? Yes, we can make some. They can make some modification changes in it. That's his culture. So that's all I gotta tell you.
Okay, Sete, what are your fixes and what's your suggestions or whatever it is? Meanwhile, before you guys go, they're going to be quite interesting, and I hope some of them volunteer their time here because one is a descendant view here. I be here. No, that's not in here. Let me see. Okay, no, let me not this comment here. This is what B is saying. We want to be back with the entire panel. So it's all out there. It's all out there. One thing I can show, the liberal will not be with us, so forget it. The liberal will be there as a counter where he claims to be.
The liberal would not even have any side. You'll be confused.
I think these are conversation too, because there are a lot of things ongoing and we don't pay attention to it. But a little thing trickle there and it becomes a different thing. But we're going to work out something and see how that plays out. So Sete, let's hear your side. Let's hear what's your fixes, what is your recommendation or suggestion to the team, to the woman.
So let me first recognize the enormity of the challenge that these women have undertaken. It takes love, it takes compassion. I listened to the last lady that was speaking, she was tearing up about the 7-year-old child that had been raped and that requires a team of doctors. That is pure. That cannot be manufactured. That comes from the heart. And so I want to recognize that it takes a certain kind of human being to put your name out there, to put your life out there and say, I'm going to advocate for other people, given all of the work we got to do in America. So I want to really applaud them. Like I said from the beginning, I know a lot of these women, they are very powerful movers and shakers in the Liberian communities. And so I think even the issue of coming back on here, I think Mrs. Gray is proposing that as a way of having a conversation where we all can learn, they can learn, and how they can revamp their plan, and that would be a very good thing. Because one thing I would advise, however, is that there are a lot of organizations out there doing a lot of work about violence. I think it would be a good thing for what it's worth, to specialize in a certain area. Say if they're taking female violence against women, that's fine. And then, but still partner with other groups that are doing violence against men, violence in the school, teachers, sleeping with kids. That's a form of violence for grades. They could, outsource some of those things and partner, but then have a focus. Because if you don't do that, like you see right now, we're putting them in 500 different places. And I guarantee you, once they announce themselves in Liberia, everybody will be going to them with every form of violence, and they cannot be everything to everybody. Otherwise, they'll be stressed. They'll be stretched very thin. So I would say they maybe pick something that they can really narrow their focus on, keep that, and then just work with other groups that are doing other things in other areas to address the violent piece. And then the last thing I'll get to say here is that it was an honor listening to very smart Liberian women. My only call on here is that I understand that sometimes we've tried so many ways, we just say, well, let's just try this other way. My piece is I don't like to make violence. I don't like to make perpetrators comfortable. Problem. So that comfort piece about, yes, I know they don't have the ability to persecute people, but you have the ability to make people uncomfortable. And I don't think we should cede that. We should not be trying to kill many flies with honey. We don't want to give honey to violators. That's just my point. But overall, I applaud it. I think this is a great idea. I think it's a very good idea that almost every Liberian should follow and help them out in how to make sure that they can succeed, because they're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it for our less fortunate brothers and sisters in Liberia.
Okay. What? In the meanwhile, the invitation, the Liberal Progressive.
Mr. So, I would take a different line. But before I do that, we had a beautiful show here last night, and one of the participants who had agreed, this is what Lobo sent me at 5:20. I want to read that so the other folks will be able to. He said, Mr. To, I'm very sorry for not calling you earlier. My son is not feeling well, but I was hoping to have my wife back from work to look after him while I make my appearance on the show. Please allow me to make it up to you next week, Thursday. I'm very sorry, he said. So let me go on to something else here. You know, when we do these things, Mr. So, when we come to these kinds of public gathering and this type of platform where we have our brothers and sisters are listening, it is good to be genuine. It is good to come out here to be truthful. This is not a platform where people come and do praise singing. You come here on this platform as a guest, or you have your organization, be ready to answer questions, because we have intellectual. You're not coming here because you think say people are going to agree with you, and you can be educated. You should expect challenges. But for Madam Washington to write that LPR preterite is in full bloom on LPR. And what does it mean? A system or society or government in which men holds power and women are largely excluded from it. Is that what you think we do here, Madam Washington? You think we sit here and just ignore women? You're missing the point. What these people, I don't agree with what you heard my argument. I don't agree with it, but they have the right to say. They are entitled to their opinions. So if you're going to be advocating and out of a sudden you're going to put every man into a basket of deplorable, then I think perhaps you need to find another way of trying to advocate and not like that. Like Broad Public Radio, we sit here, we do our best. We're not perfect, but we will not come here to insult, not degrade. When you come here, we give you the respect. We talk to you respectfully, but we will challenge your ideas. Not by disrespecting you. We will challenge your ideas because you're saying something to everybody that's listening. So if we don't try to challenge you, perhaps you might not be able to reinforce yourself. So what these people are doing tonight is challenging, it's wrestling over idea. Nobody is saying that the women should take the back seat, especially on the show where the liberal is sitting, and then you're going to say that for people to read it. I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed, Mr. So. Having had the opportunity here tonight to say that these women have done a wonderful job, and even you heard Mr. The Sisi himself, the Minnesota politician himself, came back and said these ladies are doing a wonderful job. But you don't expect to come here and people just die down or lay down for you to run them over. This is not the platform. This platform is intellectual, where we come and challenge each other. Now, having had Mr. Sisi and I have gone over it like this, heated argument, but we have the understanding it is just wrestling over ideas, nothing personal. I want to make that point clear. Thank you, Mr. So.
Okay, well, folks, that does it, and we're not going to go further with that. But again, Liberia Public Radio, that's one of the things here. Sometimes even to make your actors, they are coming here is a hair scratching. I remember when I was going to Liberia, I said I wanted to have an interview with the president. Then a suspended minister say I should send a question. I'm like, this is not way back ERBC, Sherman Brown, yes or no. It is fair to give you the outline for us to have this conversation. So, and again, I said here, we're talking here, potential challenges ahead. These are some of the challenges as you go out there to propagate these ideas. Remember, there are a lot of people bent down this route, and there are all sort of fake advocates out there, people advocating overnight to trying to seek political offices, people advocating with some sort of special rewards. So the apprehensions is huge. People are going to be questioning that, and that comes with and part of that to succeed is how you channel to your message and how you will become more persuasive for people to buy in you. So we also welcome views or opinion here, but folks on LPRA that I can tell you they are decent people, so we don't demean people. but more or less they are critical thinkers, and I don't allow them to get under your skin because then you're gonna then you're gonna fall into their bookie trap. But we will be glad. We don't take offense or anything. We'll be glad to have them. And like I said, LPR does support anything that is genuine and good for the country. Believe me or not, what I encourage. And like I said, you have articles of anything of a message, send it to all. You will see it on the official webpage of the Liberia Public Radio. That is www.liberiapublicradio.com. We are fully aware of the enormous challenges facing the country: social, political, economic, infrastructure, huge. And that's one of the reasons we're going to be engaged in the cyberspace and as well as folks on ground on wide range of conversation. So it was a great conversation. It was a great initiative. We hope to have them here. We will follow up, and maybe after the symposium, we will hope to have them here to see the outcome and anything possible we can do from our end to enhance your message. That would be great, especially with our involvement of a big network inside Liberia and even here and on the web. That would be great. Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for tapping. Usually, you guys, just to mention, usually the panelists are always here, but we wanted to get the camera focus on the guest tonight. And so the understanding was told the guys, stay in the bag, just watch the process, and then you can come on here with your views, your opinions, and analysis with the conversations, which of course you guys respect. I want to thank you very, very much for that. So guys, I think it was good. The Liberal tried to gain redemption here, but it's still not working. It's still not working. The Liberal is just a Liberal. It's still not working. So, Seth, I want to thank you so much. I mean, then beyond the week coming from class, mentoring to be here is another way of advocacy, giving back to the community, to imparting knowledge and all of that. Jonathan, thank you so much, and I'm so excited. I can't wait with the last discussion with legendary Martin Brandt. I can't wait for us to get this ball rolling. We have a lot to talk about our country.
The two most conservative on this platform, and I'm going to be aligning himself with another. Oh my goodness,
Samson too.
What are you talking about?
You got a root battle in Sacramento.
No, I left that thing. I left that room out.
Madam Washington, when it comes to LPR, we have sent the open invitation out. But again, when it comes to a panel male, in fact, we have a young lady inside Liberia, in 20s. What her name is? Very talented, innovative, public speaker, Robertson. She's here, so one of the time that's what she always here with us. But we've been looking out there. We put it out there. The only thing we don't get no money.
So maybe she should have done her research before even appearing on LPR to see who we are.
Ask Madam Washington if she got any female she can recommend. We'll welcome her.
Well, I think I had a conversation. I said we'll be glad to even have that. Prior to that, even been trying to search it now. But I mean, I'm just trying to say that this invitation is being out there long time. All the groups, even these political groups, we wrote an official letter in that, and that's why we don't just bring people here to just give their views, opinion, because we want their statement to be a position statement. In fact, one of the groups that just reached out, the party, there's so plenty people what liberation waiting
party. PLP?
Yeah, they will be putting up someone. In fact, we'll be having, hopefully, we'll finalize it. The chairperson door will be on this network coming Sunday, and they are hoping to send somebody here because we want to know what these people represent. The proliferations of political institution, maybe next year will be more than 23. I don't know. But yeah, so we are open with the group. If you want, that would be another good thing because then they will represent the voice of their organizations. And once they are willing to have that sort of commitment, dedication, staying here maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week, 2 hours, we went a little bit over time here tonight because I wanted to get these people. We are open to that. So anybody who's willing to join us here, let us know. But sometimes people don't like to show face. Guys, thank you so much and have a pleasant evening.
Thank you. Good night.
All right. Okay. So, well, that's how it's going to be, folks. I want to thank you so much for your time. For those of you following us online, by the way, follow us on our Facebook, our Twitter feed, and the YouTube channel, and also the official website, www.liberiapublicradio.com. We want to thank our guests tonight for such a fascinating conversation. I know it's not easy, but with all of us and with the strength that we will get through. Until then, the old man's on the wall now. Time has cut over. It's 10:58 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to take you home in the interest of African solidarity and promoting the Liberia culture. We'll take you to Nima County this event. Bye-bye. And this is David Wake Morris King from Nima County, taking her home here this evening. And by the way, I will be hosting the city mayor of Grangeda County and assistant superintendent for development. Early tomorrow morning at 6:30, we should be like 6 o'clock, or 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time will be 10 a.m. in Liberia. I just